Ben.
All right, welcome everybody, 6:30, October 17th, to Select Board Meeting. Open as per usual with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You want to roll call? Dave Hemingway, Chair of the Select Board.
Norman E. Blake, Select Person.
Marlo Herrick.
And we'll move on to announcements. Do you have any for us?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was gonna do it in correspondence, but I'm quite excited about it. We received the permit from DES today for White Plains Road.
Absolutely.
A Yahoo,
We
and
have
a
tried to have
Yahoo.
that going
So
for a
that's
long
pretty
time.
exciting, and I'll have a few more things to say to you in correspondence of what we need to think about.
Awesome.
So that's,
Any other announcements from the board?
No.
All right. So moving on, then that brings us to our first appointment, which is the library trustees for the projector here.
Okay.
So come on down. And we don't actually have our mics out, but I figured everybody could hear us. If you can't, let us know and we'll get them.
Okay, so, we're proposing to put an overhead projector on the screen. And from what I understand, the deal that we might be able to make with you is we'll pay for the projector and you would pay to have it installed. Does that sound good?
That certainly sounds reasonable.
Okay.
I guess first couple questions would be about the projector itself. What kind of specifications or capabilities are you expecting for it?
I was looking at one, I just kind of scanned, all of them. And I saw one that would be pretty much the same as what we have. We have an Epson, I don't know the numbers of it. Obviously, ours is probably at least 5 years old, so it's ancient now. But I believe that, more technology, probably better. I see one at the Granite State College, and it's, it's attached to the ceiling. And it seems like so much better to me. But I don't really have any specifications right now.
Okay.
We'll figure it out, because obviously, the library board will figure out what we want to pay.
How much would do you know how much it is to install it? I have no clue.
I have no clue what it would cost to install
What do
it.
you think it would be?
It kind of depends on the projector and the weight and size of it.
Sure.
If it's a really small, lightweight one, kind of like what we have now, it'll just have some screws on the bottom. You mount it to a pole that it's one pole that gets screwed up at the other end as well. Or hang off of actually the drop ceiling. If it's a heavier one, then you basically do that 4 times with a platform that it sits on. And so those are kind of the two things that happen. I don't happen to know what prices are to do that at this
Well,
point.
I'm
but
assuming that we would
it's
pay,
not super
we would
involved.
pay for whatever the equipment was to attach it to the ceiling. Right? We'll pay for the projector and whatever we need to put it into the ceiling. What we're asking you for is to do the technology, connect it.
Like hook it up.
Okay.
Right.
Like you'll have it installed, it'll be there, and then you need that person that would, not me, you don't want me.
Somebody
to-
who'll show me exactly what do I need to, what do I need to.
Right, yeah, to get it to actually work once it's installed.
Right.
We have the perfect person, I think. And it's not me.
Yeah, right.
Yes, free IT from the board. The couple things that I would make sure to point out to you for when you're looking at specifications. One is resolutions and such are always different. I know one of the challenges that we have with the small one that we as the board typically use from the town offices when we bring it up here is that it only supports older and weird resolutions. And so most of the time, even though it technically supports a resolution, it doesn't show up clear no matter where we are for projecting to it. So I have to
Are
be
you saying
really
that-
careful picking the resolutions of it.
Okay.
So be mindful of the resolution of the projectors, the native resolution of the projector that you choose.
Okay.
And the second large one is brightness. If it's not a high enough lumen or nit count, then, for example, if the lights are on or it's sunny outside, it won't show up very well.
Right, yes, because we had that problem. I think it's bright enough, but again, I'm just talking about, hours which cost, about $600, like 5 years ago. So I think that we want to get something a little bit better. So.
But yeah, once you have something that you think is pretty reasonable that way, then we can certainly take a look at
Okay.
it. I'm personally not objected to doing that for the
Not
library,
either.
especially if we're able to use it too, because it's
Right,
mounted there.
exactly. Yeah.
The one major thing I would see as a challenge is, since the screen is over here, we do have a fan right in the middle. And so
Yeah.
there may be an electrician and or removing or changing the fan, or at least moving the fan up and the projector down further back, stuff of that nature to consider. So it might not just be as super simple as possible, but
That would be.
that would be for the
your
board to
problem,
consider.
Right,
Right.
yeah. All we have to do is
But,
submit, we get
yeah.
the projector. Okay.
And
So what would we do, once they get the projector, just get some different quotes, or would we do it?
when they figure out what they want,
Then-
then we should talk about the package and
Right,
get
okay.
quotes for what it would
Before
to
they went
install.
and actually bought it and said,
Right.
okay, don't
Okay,
take this wrong.
yeah.
Don't take this wrong. Oh, yeah, hey,
Yeah.
it's gonna cost you $4,000 to install it. And not saying
Yeah,
that that's
right.
true, but, right,
Okay.
we wanna see
Okay,
what.
yeah, so, because we'll be meeting, obviously, in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll pick our projector, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, if you just pick it out,
Yeah.
kind of quote it up and forward it to us, then we
Right.
can look at it at our next meeting.
All right. As long as I have you here,
Mhm.
let me ask if I can discuss what Dave and I need to figure out also, which is putting up our symbol for.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you must.
So he'll be putting on a different, if this is what I think
This is-
it
yeah,
is,
this
he's
is
putting
for the-
on a
this one.
different app
I'm now for
for
the energy.
Webster
Energy,
Community
yeah.
Power
Yeah.
through the Energy
Yeah.
Committee.
Yeah. So what we need to do,
I didn't go look at the whole thing because
Okay.
I didn't want to try to go through it as me.
okay, so here, let me show you quickly, okay? What,
Oh, an example.
what, yes, Henry, you know Henry, no?
That's-
They won't.
They
but
won't, okay.
One of the
Anyway.
representatives
Yeah.
from Community Power Coalition.
Right.
Oh, no, you won't.
Okay, so.
It scrolled up.
He said that these are
Oh, that's
3
excellent.
samples
Yeah.
that he has. And we have to submit one in 2 days.
Okay, that's
You know,
fine.
and so,
So can we copy?
So.
well, what we would
so
do
here's
is
the-
we would
here's
take
the
a
quick thing.
picture, if we don't have a picture already, of the building. And then we,
So there, I'll try to summarize my understanding.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Normally, all of these places get a logo associated with them.
Yeah.
Because of other things at Community Power Coalition, that hasn't happened to any of the people that have joined since just before we did. They're trying to get back and develop all those logos for the various communities. So, for example, that example there is Lebanon Community
Right.
Power. They are looking to do one for us, that's Webster Community Power. The way that they typically handle doing it is they take a photo of something that we have decided we want this to be the landmark or the symbol or whatever, and then they handle taking that photo and turning it into a nice logo and seal of that nature.
So we could take a picture of
So
the
the
meeting
big
house.
question would be.
And then they
Right.
might do a little.
Do we want to use the meeting house? Do we want to use town hall? Is there
Or like I
something else to
suggested, I
use?
suggested using Daniel Webster with, he was having a couple of lightning rods coming out of his.
That might be a
Daniel
lot more
Webster
fun.
as
That
Zeus.
dude right there?
Daniel Webster as Zeus.
Right.
I thought it'd be, I mean, like, this is kind of boring, just a.
Might be a
you
little
know.
more, a little bit more,
Yeah.
Anyway.
hate the
so-
word, use the word fun, just.
Yeah,
exciting,
Entertaining.
Entertaining.
there you go.
Oh, those are good questions.
But I do have to submit this, he said 5 o'clock on Wednesday.
Oh.
So-
Oh, like two days from today?
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I
that's
did get
good.
the message probably like last Friday.
Yeah, I think it went out during the Local Energy Solutions Conference that I was at, or just before.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
So what do you think?
I don't know. The meeting house would be kinda neat. I mean, I think this place is kind of hard because it's long and how would you'd be so small?
Well, you just show basically, I think, the library,
Right.
when you
Well,
just
yeah,
show
that could be. Can we
But-
show the colored glass that lights through the colored glass in the library?
Well, like, so they add color here.
Oh, did I
Yeah,
see?
yeah,
I
he
can't
yeah.
see
says
that.
yes, he'll put in 2 colors.
Yeah, so you could kind of, but, oh God. I
So,
mean,
yeah, it could
like,
be
when you
here,
look at
it
the
could
photo
be-
right over there, where you see the church that got moved, which is the library
Yeah.
now, correct?
Mhm.
Am I right saying that? It does have that look of staunchness, but so does the meeting house, and not saying that, lightning bolts coming out of Daniel Webster's eyes wouldn't be kind of, just, I don't know that we might not get crap for that. People might think we've lost our minds, but I love it,
I mean, I look at it this way, the meeting house is probably the most historically significant, iconic thing that we have in town, but it's also a fairly, unless you know what it is,
It's
it's
kinda
just a
boring.
box of a
Yeah.
house.
Box, yeah.
So it doesn't make a
careful
great
with that,
logo.
careful with that.
Whereas the town hall, basically everybody's coming to it. And
Some
it-
point.
And it
Yeah.
has the more descript steeple and
That's right,
section and.
absolutely.
And road and such that can be used.
And I hate to say, knowing that because you guys weren't here, I don't think, but knowing the history of this, how we moved everything, I mean, that, and got it together and the town voted to do all this.
And made it happen.
Yeah, right,
Pretty
exactly.
impressive in itself.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely.
So I go with the here.
Yeah,
Of this
okay.
building?
Oh, yep,
Yeah.
mainly the library itself, with the steeple, which is
Yeah.
the old church.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Did you
so
put any lightning
try to
bolts
find a couple
coming
of
at it?
those.
No, well, actually, what they show here is they show
Oh, yeah.
like a sun,
Yeah.
with, so,
Yeah,
I'll just,
yeah, so it
I'll just do
depends.
that. Right, okay.
We'll pick a few photos of here and let them choose from whatever they think is gonna be graphically the best.
Okay, all right.
We did love that idea.
I'll get it in by Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Marty before we? All
No,
right,
Thanks for
Keep
coming
them out
in.
of trouble.
thank you.
That's
So
all we
that-
got to do tonight.
I can give them a notice. All right, that moves us on to our second appointment, which is David Potter and Eric Hansen regarding the designation of Guide Board Hill and emergency lanes. Come on down.
Just to let you know, Eric will not make it this evening.
Well, welcome to you.
Thank you. Happy Monday to you all. Thanks for coming in.
So, what's new?
Maybe you can give me a recap how we left off, so that way we're on the same page.
So please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. My belief is that it was left off at the most appropriate manner being for you to be in touch with the federal government and the Army Corps, because that's their land and they're the ones that are messing up the right-of-way that is in front of your house.
These are, right now, we're being taped, right?
Yep,
So if we go back the last time that we spoke, you specifically said to see Emmett,
Okay.
okay? I don't know if that rings a bell.
Uh, If that's what we said, sure.
Yes, okay. And
I'm sure we have
the
minutes of
reason
it.
you sent me to Emmett, because we're gonna make it into a emergency lane, and you told me to see Emmett. Is it,
If it made sense to do something of that nature, yes.
okay.
And
Well,
he and the police chief would be one of the primary ones bringing forward to us that it should be an emergency lane or not.
okay. So I did what you said. I contacted Emmett back in March. And then Emmett said to me that he'd get back to me. And I believe I sent you probably one, at least text message once. And here we are now. And then I believe Eric spoke to you, my neighbor.
Yeah, he called me the other day, wanted to know when I was gonna bring him up some gravel.
No, he told me he saw you and you discussed, you know, that we gotta have to pay for the gravel, correct?
No. He called me on the
I wish he
phone.
was here, but anyway,
I was
where
in
do we go from
Salisbury,
here?
Hayfield. So,
Sure, go ahead.
I wanna know what you think you're gonna gain by, putting this into an emergency lane. That's,
You could talk to Dave. Dave suggested that.
no, okay,
Not me,
okay.
okay? So you could direct that to him.
So one of the comments was, I believe, about the severe rutting and being able to get down to the locations within the federal lands and being able to service them and support them in the case of an emergency, because of course, you've mentioned several times that they're doing recreation areas over there. So that's, I would think, where I was going with that line of thinking. And I'm sorry, my memory is not perfect all the
That's okay,
time,
no,
but.
that's why we're
but that's-
teaming right
That's where I
now.
think that would have come from. The kind of two comments on emergency lane stuff is, one, they would need to see that there is a need to be doing that beyond what's currently there and being maintained. So for example, on some of the other roads that we have that are class 6 that have not had maintenance, do not get maintained, don't have people on them to do their own personal maintenance. A couple of those have become emergency lanes, so that, for example, when someone starts a fire or gets their ATV stuck down someplace, they can go get them. So things of that nature have happened. It does not turn it into a good quality road that everyone can drive on fairly easily. So the second portion there would be to clarify that that's a difference. And so even if it's an emergency lane, it doesn't mean that it gets maintained as any
Correct.
sort of road.
Correct, that's what we discussed last.
So, I think maybe there was a comment from you, or no, and I might be wrong.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Maybe there was a comment from you about the being spring and the levels of water and mud and people running through it and rutting it really bad and spraying it and so on, that would make it hard. Maybe that's where the comment about if it's an emergency lane, maybe there can be some gravel added to it to make it easier to pass in the case of an emergency. Again, I'm just thinking out loud about what might have been the thought process there.
Yep.
But as far as emergency lanes are concerned, that's about all that I could think of from it. And that would have to be the two chiefs would come to us and say, we think we need to do this. And I believe you had mentioned that you wanted to do it as an emergency lane, thinking that, and that might have been why we sent you over to the chief.
No, you sent me to,
Right.
oh, chief, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
fire chief, yes.
So, That's kind of my roundabout recollection
Right.
of things.
That-
Does that
that's-
jive with others, or are other people remembering things differently?
Yeah, I think you were just trying to suggest that possibly, the only thing possibly as a town, because it's not our property,
Correct.
to do is if we were able to say there needed to be an emergency lane. That they, because really, and I don't even know this for a fact, but how much can we do on the federal land that's okay to do too?
Well, that's not on the federal land.
Oh, okay.
Once it goes down the Class 6 road.
Yeah.
Right past his place.
Yeah.
Then it becomes the
Feds,
entrance to
okay.
the federal lands.
Okay.
And
Recreation area.
And the federal lands use that road as access. And
You know-
we talked about how the feds should actually be doing maintenance, but there's nothing that
Right.
we can really do about it.
When the first time I was a selectman, I remembered we got somebody from the federal government with, doing this at our meeting, so we could ask, and I think it's time, and I was thinking that the other day.
You said that last time,
Yeah.
and I believe we had people reach out and try to get in contact with them.
Yeah, we haven't had any success with that. However, I'd be glad to try again. The person that's in charge of the Webster Dam is also in charge of the Franklin Falls Dam. I did speak with them, and they came and saw me and told me very definitely that the federal government would not pay for anything that wasn't on their land. The other, one other issue, and I am on camera, but we certainly could reach out to our senator or representative to see if there's anything that they can do for us.
I thought we were trying that, but maybe.
Well,
So.
maybe in the next 2 weeks, it would be a good time to do it.
They might be interested in
You know.
hearing from their voters.
But I also think we should have somebody from the federal government, even if we have to meet in the daytime, because they're not working at night, to have, and talk to them about what, because I remember, I thought it was pretty interesting when we did have the guy, and that was a long time ago, I mean, decades, I hate to say it. But they brought up things, and now I can't remember. But I think it would be a nice thing. I mean, we have half the, and maybe Salisbury selectmen would wanna join, cause they got half of the thing in their town. So,
Don't they have a different access route from?
I don't know, but, well, you can get there, but still, it's all, takes half their town up too. They can't build there, we can't build there on ours because of the water. So I think it would be good to have somebody from that who knows, well, maybe there's nobody that knows it, but somebody who knows about how this works, and if we even invite this, the Salisbury people to come together.
And like I said, not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but before I forget, when the first year I bought it in '87, moved in January of '88. That year, I believe his name was Blackie, your wife's father, they called him Blackie. Lukey, I'm sorry, Lukey. And the first year, he graded the road, brought gravel in, I believe, I wanna say maybe 2 years and then once he retired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it stopped.
And see, that's it, he lived in town, so he would do a lot of that
Yes.
behind the dam. And that's the problem, these people don't know anything, I'm sure they sit there on their computers, I hate to say it, but they.
Yeah, he used to take the
listen.
tractor in back of the dam and come in the back way too.
I remember him doing stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So that's why I think maybe it'd be good to have somebody from the dam come to a meeting and face the people instead of, it might be a little different. They might have a different perspective because they're not living here. I mean, Lukey knew all that. He was great about any of that stuff, so.
I would personally be in favor of trying to do a joint meeting with since you mentioned Salisbury, board with a representative for the Army Corps and the
Yeah.
federal lands. Not necessarily just about this, but the entire project, just to make sure that everyone can these are the things that are offered by the land, and these are the things that are required for the land, and this is how, for example, we're paying out for police details to, you know,
Yeah, right, we're-
control
right.
behind the land, and so like all of those things happen that not necessarily everybody knows about, and things like this kind of get lost in the cracks. And so hopefully it can kind of all come out in one of those meetings with, and if we bring them out and do it as a joint meeting,
Yeah,
since
that
it
would
is
be-
both towns. And I figure
And what-
some of
so
it
what
would
do
be
we-
this, but most of it would probably be informational.
Well, yeah.
I was gonna
they-
say, because what would we be trying to accomplish by meeting with them to get them to agree to help with some of the material? Because they're calling it the recreation area that he has to deal with, is that
Well, I-
what we would try to accomplish? I just was trying to understand, that's all.
The thinking with dealing with them is kind of if we can get them here
Yeah, right.
to talk, that is the best first step to trying to resolve any issue. When they have said that unless it's on their land, they're not doing it, but the best reading of the statutes say that they can do it, but they don't have
Yeah.
to getting into the land. So that would be kind of the best step, I think, for everybody, rather than just saying, go sue the federal government.
Gotcha.
But I think it's nice to know, I mean, if these roads should be in pretty good shape. If we have to get a fire truck down, you never know where something's gonna break out. I mean, people are there all the time, some people aren't as conscientious of things like that, and so I think if they see us in person, there's a whole different thing than just talking on the phone. If they could see people, and people from Webster could come to the meeting if they wanted and voice their opinions, the road agent, our road agent, the police department.
And we can even invite our local representatives to that same
Yeah,
one.
sure.
Because I know that like Warner, Webster, Salisbury, there are some representatives that are shared across these. And if the state representatives are there too, to see what the response is from
Yeah.
the government, that maybe
The
it'll
more
help,
the
maybe
merrier,
not.
yeah,
You can say we're gonna do this and then invite them, and if they come, they come.
right, right.
So Dana, do you recall who you spoke to?
At the dam, it was a young lady, and I don't have her name.
Tia?
I believe Tia, yes.
Okay, because I have her cell phone number.
Yeah, it was Tia, yeah.
I work with her with all the stuff in the buildings and different things, and she's always been great to work with.
Oh, she was very nice, I mean,
So you wanna reach out to her to see if she would,
Would you like me to try to set something up? Is that what I'm hearing?
yes.
Yeah.
I think that would be
Yes.
the best way to do
Okay.
it.
And get
I
Tia's
will
cell number.
with Salisbury. So I'll contact Salisbury and we'll talk about it, and then I'll reach out to Tia and hopefully set something up, and I'll let Dave know.
In the meantime, can we go forward? I've been doing this project, I believe this is what, my 5th time.
You've been here a couple of
Yeah,
times.
yeah, okay, we'll do it a couple of times.
More than a couple.
And I'd like to see, anyway, get to my point before I lose my thought, is that we can move ahead, since Emmett's right here, we can get this moved ahead, whatever, it takes. Because truthfully, I'm just looking for 3 loads of gravel up on top of that hill. If you dump them there, I can spread it, okay? I don't know if I mentioned that before.
Yes, I think you did.
Okay, so I just like to, personally, I still like to do what you said too, but in the meantime, we could do Plan A, and that could be Plan B.
No, that's fine.
So in the meanwhile, on top of this, the Class 6 part of the Mutton Road up with Jackie and Albert, they're looking for help. Frost Lane wants to turn that all back to the town. They're looking for help. Everybody and their brother's looking for help.
But can I say this? I have a different situation.
No,
Mine leads to do they lead to a recreation area?
well, power lines.
They don't see, I bet you, if we were to get the government to show what traffic that road gets, I'm
So Willgate and Barrett at the top of the hill But I.
He said we can't do that.
I'm gonna tell you right now, right straight out, I'm not in favor of an emergency lane there.
So the thing that we've got here from A Hard Road to Travel, which is from the New Hampshire Municipal Association. The quote that, and you'll all see this in like the second or third page, and I'll give you my copy when we're done here, is to do any sort of emergency lane, the process would go through and require a public hearing first. But, and this is following that, after the public hearing, the select board must first make written findings in the minutes and its meeting that, quote, "The public need for keeping such lane passable by emergency vehicles is supported by an identified public welfare or safety interest that surpasses or differs from any private benefits to landowners abutting such lane." In other words, a highway may not be declared an emergency lane solely for the private benefit of abutters on that highway. And that would be you, Eric, and the federal government. And so that's where we would actually have a problem with being able to classify it as an emergency lane. This is a little bit newer information than we necessarily
So
had
this is the first
last
time we talked about it, right?
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen that exact quote in there, because I glanced through the stuff, but it's been a while since I did my planning board stuff and going through that book. But that's kind of where it would make it very hard for us to be able to say it's an emergency lane without a good reason put forth by both of the chiefs.
Hypothetically, we already know where he stands. How about the chief? Can we weigh in with the chief?
Well, police chief?
Yes,
Yeah, you're absolutely.
right? So let's take it there before we even talk about this, because if he says it, right, does he have a say in the matter?
He would have a say in being able to give us a reason that we may consider it to be beyond this.
Okay. So I guess we can leave it with the chief.
You could contact the chief, and if the chief
Well,
comes to us
can
requesting
I just
it-
say this? I haven't had to, now, he's a busy man, I didn't wanna bother him, and here we are, you know, I talked to him in March, not to throw you under the bus in any way.
Oh, no, you're not, because I've been in contact with Russell and finding out what's going on, and it
Okay.
was all up into the air.
Right.
And I didn't wanna get in the middle of whatever's.
But remember our last conversation, you said you would get back to me.
I did.
Okay?
Yeah.
And right now, we're right here, okay? So, I'm just trying to move ahead, and if that's the case, hypothetically, if the chief right now says, okay, I think it's fine, where do we go? Is it gonna have to go for a vote? You guys vote on it? I just wanna know the process.
So if the recommendations were being made that it should be an emergency lane, there would be reasons put forth, they would be posted, there would be public hearings. The majority of the public would be heard and decide whether they agree or not, and whether they agree that that's an appropriate use of town funding, and then we would be able to make a decision on that following that, and then implement whether it should or should not be an emergency lane.
That's all different from that last meeting that because you're the one that suggested I talk to him. And
Because
you're-
he's the one that could
Right,
suggest
right,
that.
but
it
I'm
be an
just saying, all of a
emergency
sudden, now you're giving me more information. Did you study up on it or something like that? Because this wasn't talked about last meeting.
lane. I'm not recollecting whether how much we said or not. I think we were focusing on what the first options were.
Right.
Because you were looking at several different options.
Right.
And I think we suggested that the only thing that the town might be able to do.
Is this.
Is through an emergency
Okay.
lane, and that would be the first step.
All right.
Because what you were asking was to have, like, one-time road maintenance done on a class 6 road, which we can't do.
Correct.
And from some minutes that we have from previous stuff, one of the things that you apparently have looked at in the past as well is turning it into a class 5 road from a class 6 road. And that did not go through with the previous select boards. Obviously, one select board does not bind another. However, if you wanted to go forward with something of that nature, that would require things like paying to bring the road up to current conditions as required by the road agent, and then going and putting a warrant article into the town to request that the town take it over and take over its maintenance there forward, going forward. So that's that process, just in case it has changed some since the last time you looked at doing it. But to my knowledge, those are the processes. Russ can help you better with any of the processes, because he'll have all the books, get them out and give you copies of what all the actual processes and RSAs and stuff are.
Okay, awesome. Back to the chief. So can you get a hold of him instead of me trying to get a hold of him? I mean, you guys see him, right?
Yeah, we see him for department head meetings each month.
Right, so is it something that, you know,
Can you just
He's
ask
out
him
of
to
town this
comment
week.
on
Yeah,
at the
he's-
next meeting?
Yeah, he's not here this week, but I will ask him to come to the next
Awesome.
meeting and talk about it.
Yeah, just ask him if he thinks it should be, and, you know, we'll let the chiefs tell us at the next meeting what they think about it.
Okay.
And then if it is turned over to an emergency lane, then you've gotta get the funding to buy the gravel, because that isn't in the budget anywhere to,
So let me ask, as the road agent and someone that deals with some of the other emergency lanes that we have, what is currently making this road impassable for emergency vehicles that would actually need to be taken care of and would get looked at and addressed if it were an emergency lane? Or is it already in good enough condition that the emergency lane would say
I
it's fine?
haven't drove down there. I've been down there once in my entire life. Maybe twice. We went to a chimney fire on the other side of the road there one time, and we were looking for smoke 3 years ago, and I parked at the river and walked all the way out to Little Hill, out along the river out there.
Okay,
I guess it's like, and I will just go on the other emergency lanes we have. I've done, sometimes it's a couple of years before you do anything. In the major part of the emergency lanes that we have, the backside of Clough and Sandbin, in the backside of Pond Hill, they're just an emergency lane to stop the erosion, to control the water. The old Route 127's an emergency lane, so we can maintain that because there's a fire pond there.
all right, thank you. Do either of you have any other questions on that, or comments?
Not really.
I have one more.
Sure.
Hypothetically, he mentioned about, how did you say it, close the road? What was the exact terminology?
Gates and bars.
Chain and bar? Is that a possibility?
I don't know, if you have to,
I don't think you can for a class 6 road.
No, I don't
I
think
don't-
you can either.
I don't think you'd be able to, because it's not a private road.
It's still a public.
And it wouldn't be a private road, and it wouldn't be a seasonally maintained road. It's a class 6.
It's a class 6 road, and it's like the backside of Garrish Road and all them. You can put a sign up close to gates
Yeah.
and bars or something like that, but, I don't really know
I think you can put a gate, but you can't lock it, so people can open it and get in if they want to, they just have to stop and open the gate.
Yeah, it might be something of that
Yeah,
nature.
because you have to close it subject to gates and bars, but.
Because I
since-
think it was something similar to that for the
Right.
land at the end of Little Hill.
Right, but you can't lock it.
Right, because I know back years ago, I was logging on a class 6 road over to Warner, and I left my skidder in the center of the road over the weekend where I had all my stuff, and behold, a crap load of Jeeps came along, and then I wasn't supposed to block the road off, and so,
Mhm.
keep keep it from people going through, which,
Can't you close at certain times of the year too?
I think that's the seasonal maintained one,
Yeah.
that you still can't close it. 'cause
well,
people have
over
the right
to
to
Warner,
keep
they
property.
have something where they close their class 6 road down to wheeled vehicles through the mud season part of it,
Right.
but I think that was something that had to be adopted at the town hall.
Okay.
Is that how that
would-
worked?
That would seem like a town meeting thing. But that would also, like, anything that would be a block would have to be on our portion of the road, so it would have to block off your place. It wouldn't just block off the federal lands. Beyond your place, then that's on the federal lands, and so we can't put anything there or change what they're doing.
Now, what time of year do they shut their gate? They must shut that gate like they do the same time over on
Yeah,
Hill Hill.
I believe, early part of April, right up to middle of May, they lock the gate, but it doesn't slow them down, they just park in front of the gate and they walk down. And then, I believe they'll close it again in December, I believe. I'm going by memory.
Memory.
Yeah, but they do close it down, and then, like I said, they won't open it up until early May. It depends where the water is, you know.
Correct, yeah.
You
So
could-
with them shutting that gate down doesn't slow your traffic
Oh,
down?
no, I've seen 12 cars parked in front of that gate.
How much of that is from the federal lands to the gate, roughly? Do you have an idea of that? Like, are they all parking on federal land at that point, or is that our?
No,
streets?
it's all on the town road, because if you follow the markers that are on the tree, the town owns right up to the markers. So they're parking on town. The only way they're parking on feds, once that gate's open, then they're parking on federal
Going way
government.
down.
Yeah.
Is there another house down there, wasn't there a woman that owned a house below you near the federal lands? Why do I remember, think of that?
Oh, Zinke, no, she's up above me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's nobody below you?
No one below me.
Um,
That's where the expressions, I go up hills both ways.
It would not necessarily help all of the situations that he's discussing, but what would be involved in, and I'm not saying we should do this, but what would be the process and/or what would be involved if we wanted to say, put up a sign that said no street parking?
I'd have to
Okay.
look that up.
We might want to look into that. Because that should at least make it possible to alleviate some of this. That's about the only thing I can think of that we might be able to do at this point to help you. But any other thoughts on processes or different avenues he should look at or consider?
I think he's covered a lot of different options. The only other option is to go to the community and petition for it to be a Class 5, which again is not always an easy process.
And usually not cheap.
And, you know, I believe it's the legislative body, the voters
Yeah, the
that
voters.
decide.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know we recently did it, what, 5, 6 years ago? You added that little road there for that woman, remember that? That was maybe, I don't know, 5, 6.
Oh, no, I didn't have any, I was dead against that right
Oh,
from straight
okay.
one. No,
Anyway, she,
No, that was done wrong right from the start.
oh, okay. But the town did vote, I believe,
They
off the top,
did.
yeah, $15,000, the town voted, no?
I didn't get any money to fix
No,
that.
I just remember.
No, she came in here, she was pregnant, that place was for sale. I knew the place was for sale, the minute they got that brought back to a Class 6 road, she came in here, stood there. Everybody felt sorry for her because she didn't wanna lug her groceries home anymore. They made that a class 6 road, fire insurance went down, the value of her house went up, place was sold, she was gone. And if I had anything to do with it, they would have done the next few hundred feet and made it so you could drive all the way through. It's a royal pain in the behind. You have to back in, plow out, back, plow in, back out, and, no, I was
Which
dead
road is
against.
this?
That was,
Or where is it
no,
roughly?
hold on, just a general Stark.
Okay,
Oh, at Pillsbury Lake.
Yeah.
okay. Oh, no, I think I know
That
what you're
road
talking
should have
about.
been brought up the way it should have been, but the select board at the time,
She's making it class 5.
it's class 5 now.
Yeah, but I mean, but it was a class 6.
Right.
Right.
Right, well, it was one of them roads at Pillsbury Lake that never was adopted by the town. So I
So
don't
it's
even,
actually, so it's a private road.
Maybe it previously was.
so, no, I was dead against
I just,
that.
I remember the town
Yeah.
allotting 15,000 to
No,
bring it
there-
up to a class
no,
5.
There was no, I don't, no, there was, I don't believe you can find that there was any money, that came out of the budget.
Oh,
And I
okay.
wasn't happy about that either, but I worked with the town fathers, so.
My point was, it was, there was some money allotted for that situation.
Well, that would be voters and.
Correct.
You look that up tomorrow, because I don't believe there was, not that it's a big deal.
No, no.
There was no money allotted.
I just remember they voted on it, and I was shocked that it went through.
How long was it? How long ago was it?
3, 4, 5 years ago.
I want to say at least
God,
6.
I
Yeah,
think it's a
it's
lot
been-
longer than
Yeah.
that.
It's gotta be more than that.
Yeah.
Because I've been here that long and it wasn't when I was.
Right, right.
Yeah.
We're
Time
not talking
flies
about
when you're having
19.
fun.
Don, you got that right. You got that
1941
right.
or
Anyway.
something,
Yeah, we can move on. So I guess where I understand this meeting is that we know where Emmett stands. He says no. And if the chief, the police chief says yes, then you'll convene as,
If the police chief recommends to us that it
Yes.
should be an emergency lane
25
at the
Yeah.
next meeting,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we can start setting up the process to investigate it, what it might cost, what the actual emergencies are that
Okay.
require that above and beyond what's
Yeah.
currently there. And we can hold public hearings to be able to tell people about that, and
Mhm.
get it, and then we'll be able to make
Okay.
a decision. At
awesome.
least I think that's what the process is,
Oh, yeah.
so.
I think that's what I understand too. And thank you for the stuff.
Yeah, and if you look at and I'm pretty sure that Russ has a copy of this, I think, given to you, but if
I
not,
think we gave it to
the
you.
road
The
acceptance
road acceptance
policy portion.
We talked about that when you came in.
One of basically the last portion, or one of the last portions in the section that's pertinent is, quote, "The town shall not incur any costs associated with upgrading the road to class 5 construction standards."
Correct, yep, yep, I do remember that now.
And that was apparently the May 28th, 2019 work session with, where are the brothers? There we go. Chairman Schofield. That adopted that policy, and that would be based on the combination of the RSA's, things like NHMA's guidance, et cetera.
Now, was that to be brought up as a dirt road, a dirt class 5, or
That
does it have to be?
that wasn't in
tar?
specific, that wasn't specific to any particular road or case. It was a
Right.
general policy.
For
But-
example, if somebody wanted a road as part of a subdivision, so if they're gonna build 5 houses and they want a road going through
Right, that would have to be tarred.
Correct.
But where Mr. Potter's working on that to bring it back to a class 5, or if that's what happened, where it's dirt now, would he have
Well, of course
to-
it would be dirt now, because it's a class 6, not a
Correct,
class 5.
but,
So once again, that would be something that would be discussed with you, the board, and Mr. Potter, if he was gonna do that, what the expectations would be, and the planning board.
All right.
And then we'll still, I'm sorry, I keep on barging in. We're still gonna do Plan B with the, meeting with the federal government, right? Still doing that? You're gonna
We can ask them
make
if
the-
they'll wanna come.
We'll do our best.
Okay, that's all I can ask. I guess I have no more questions. Thank you for your time and patience. I apologize if I raise my voice or anything like that.
It's frustrating.
I-
And I would
Well,
be
it's
frustrated too,
frustrating
even if I
because
knew it was happening.
you don't see what I see, you know, I got, you know, in the summertime, they rip up the road, and it's heartbreaking, because, you know, it just takes one yahoo, and then you start going like this, you know.
That's why the ball field's locked at night or all day long, you know,
What was that?
that's why they keep the ball field locked, because you
I
can't,
know,
you
somebody-
can't have nothing, people don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, and, one guy, was so frustrated, I guess I blocked his way, my dog ran out, and I went to go get him, and he was so upset because I guess he was in a hurry. He sat there, held his brake, and punched it right in front of my house.
Oh, jeez.
And just rutted it, just dropped it down, boom, 8 to 10 inches, you know? Anyway, you don't need to hit, I'm sorry, you don't need to hit, it's just years of, you know, dealing with the public like that.
But how are we gonna fix that by putting dirt in it? They're still gonna do it.
Oh, yes, yes, but the thing is that when it comes springtime, I have all I could do to get down there, because the top of the hill, as you know, it washes down. Even though I try to bring it back up, it dissipates, and the top of the hill is really mushy.
Okay, so
Yeah.
to clarify for everybody, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna contact the government folks for the dam to try and set up a meeting, see if they want to. We are going to contact the police chief, so that at the next meeting, he will say whether he's for it or not. And we are going to look into what would be required to put up signs that say no road parking.
I'd like to add, I think I would start with Salisbury, because I think it would be helpful if you had more the more the merrier.
Yes, that's what I say,
Fair,
we should
yeah.
join,
So-
because Salisbury's gonna have as
So-
many problems as we do, I'm sure.
I'll talk to Dave.
Well, there's yeah,
Plus,
we
they don't
should-
even
we
have a
should see
police
if- We
department.
should see if they have a similar access road that has the same issues. Otherwise, that might not be,
But they have the same
helpful.
yahoos up there as we have down here.
Right,
Going
but
in
I don't believe they have
The
a
hill.
recreation park that a class 6 leads to. I believe I'm the only one, that's my last research, I am the only one in the state of New Hampshire that has a class 6 road that leads to a recreation area. I remember talking to the road agent for New Hampshire, and he says there's no such thing. And then I said, well, how about 64 Guy Ford Hill Road? And then he wouldn't answer my calls back.
Really?
Yeah, he would not, even though he just got, he did say there's no such thing.
okay. So, we have our abilities and settings for where we're going from here. Any last things on process or questions from the board?
No, but just make sure Mr. Potter knows if we get these people, that he can come, it would be a public
Oh,
meeting.
absolutely.
That would be awesome, yeah.
Certainly, if we hear back from them, we'll definitely let them know. All right,
All right,
Thank
again,
you.
thank you for the board for allowing me to share my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. That
Thank you,
makes-
sir. Hopefully, there's no hard feelings.
Oh, I
Okay,
don't,
okay,
no,
good,
no,
good.
no, I don't have any hard feelings,
Okay,
it's
good.
just that I've got 4 or 5 other roads. that
Oh,
are
I
the
know,
same
I know,
road.
that's why I don't.
Try and-
Anyway, I don't wanna take.
Treat everybody fair.
Yes, you're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so
tomorrow.
that
4
moves
o'clock.
us.
10 after 4.
10 after.
Sign it for me, please.
Let me out quickly.
Okay.
Did you not wanna sign in? Thinking you
Damn it.
wouldn't know you
Well,
were
you-
there.
I didn't even, I'm sorry, I'll sign in, I'm
Did
sorry.
you say Frost
And
Lane
I'll grab
wants to
my,
end up being having
Oh,
a
yeah.
here in the road?
Yeah.
I know they got a lot of houses down
Especially the
there.
people at the end who wanna buy the Berry Ranch property, that
Oh,
has to go
20
through
acres?
somebody else's lot in order to get there.
Oh, so when is that? You think they're gonna do something this year?
I don't know.
Because it has to be voted on by the town.
They've been talking, about it, but the way I've been talking to them folks down
I'm
there,
sorry.
Sir, you,
they gotta bring it up to taxes and all that stuff and everything.
We struggled with that for like
It's a lot of money. I mean,
If they want to, it's a good time to do it.
yeah, no, I just gotta,
Well, that's
Change
true.
that intersection.
Yeah, that's true.
I heard about that
The
after.
system.
All right.
I go down.
Yeah, I
and
Work.
put your name for you, Marty.
Yes,
A few loads of
And good luck to you
know,
with your situation.
So it's not
Yeah.
washing.
Our committee,
Yeah.
It's too
committee
small.
called me if I didn't do this, so.
I just wanna make sure I know
That
who's in
road
the
back
audience, so I can get them on.
Yeah, not the town, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of nice people.
Oh, yeah, they're all fans.
All right,
Everybody, are we ready?
so yeah, budget
You're
time.
gonna do this, does this gentleman?
Oh,
need-
I just came because my rather petulant neighbors said they were gonna show up and complain about me again. So, I'm Aaron Dingus. They complained about my bus and, it's not a motorhome, and they complained about this and that and the other thing, and they
You sure they're
said,
not going to the meeting on Thursday, the planning board meeting?
oh, maybe, but I won't be here. I'll be
Yeah.
out of town already by then, so.
Yeah, but I already talked to them, I've talked to you, you know
Right.
what we're interested in on the planning board. When it's done, if you don't have the space,
Okay.
you can just put in that application, and then we'll see if we can get you a special exception or a
Right.
variance.
That's that.
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
No problem.
Perfect.
Look out.
All right.
Ooh, somebody made this bigger.
Oh, yeah. No,
We've got
Dana,
some nice budgets here.
Dana takes care of me.
Yeah, because otherwise we're usually like,
Emmett and I unfortunately didn't have a chance really to meet because I was away.
And I was
with Emmett.
busy, I did
So-
stop in for a minute.
You were
but-
away, you
I
mean, you
was.
were on vacation?
I was. and
How
I'd
can
like-
you do that
I'd
to
like
us?
Oh,
thank
I
you,
see,
you
it
know.
doesn't have.
well,
any
listen, we just
opposed.
voted on all this vacation, you gotta take it.
Yeah.
All right,
Hope you
so
have fun.
what would you like to start with first? You name it, and I'll grab what sheet I need.
Fire's on top.
Fire's on top.
Sounds good.
So,
Actually, I'll ask the one silly question first, because it's related. We have the ambulance section, which I believe is the joint for the Hopkinton.
Correct.
Stuff. And that won't be on this page, but I don't know if it's.
That's
in
a
here
separate
or not.
account.
Yes.
That's 40.
Yeah, that's not listed on here.
so I have contacted the fire chief, Jeff Beal, in the town of Hopkinton to see if we were gonna have an increase of, money on that. And he said that he was working on Warner's budget, and then he was going to, get ours done up. And he was supposed to text me with a number before 6 o'clock tonight. And I know they had a busy day over there today, so he didn't, but he couldn't foresee a big increase.
Okay,
Cause I just, I said, you got your fuel that's gone up and your wages and all that, and he said, I think we're gonna be pretty close to where we were last year,
perfect.
so.
I spoke to the finance office over there today too. I didn't know Emmett had spoken with the chief. And she said she would let us know as soon as she had the figures, but she didn't have them yet.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, we've studied, we've, worked on that. A lot of departments that they were talking about through the capital area meetings and stuff, they went 15 to 20% increase across the board, for their budget. But I don't know, I think we're at, I don't have any internet service here, but we're below, I think, right around 170 calls. So So, last year we finished it out at 200. We still have a couple of months to go, but they are predicting with the fuel cost and the increase, the rates of electricity, it's gonna be a heck of a winter with fires and people trying to makeshift things, and, the fire marshal's already been doing, marshal's office is already, concerned about what's going on, but I think I'm gonna hold what we have. You folks, gave us quite a bit, well, of raise there last year in the stipends. Not that the people aren't worth $1 million for 'em each, or 2 or 3, but it does say volunteer over the door. I'm gonna hold that. And
Have we paid the third quarter stipends?
I have it for Wendy in the morning to turn
Okay,
into,
so not yet. Okay.
No, we haven't paid it yet.
no, we haven't paid it.
Yeah.
So the reason I was asking that is because I pulled up you mentioned budget, and I pulled that up quickly, and the overall fire budget, the last run that I got a report from Wendy, said that you still had 44.7%
Right,
left.
and then.
But if
and
that's
then-
not there,
and then when
that
I
puts
take
it
the
much
stipends,
closer to
right,
the way
no,
it
I've
should
got
be.
it all, then you take the stipends out, that brings it down to $22,706.
Yep,
And,
which is just about perfect, so.
and then we have, the PO that needs to be signed, $1,800 for 4 pagers. Perkins Pump, that's gonna be almost $1,000 from last, what was it,
Well, I'm not worried about the full
Yeah,
specifics,
so
but
no,
just
I-
overall,
yeah.
it'll be about.
It will, no, I'm keeping track of it close, cause it's getting to the end of the year. So, on the stipends, in the office's stipends, in the training, we did a bunch of in-house training. The dispatch service, is $21,856, so that's right in the ballpark. It did go up a whisker,
So you
but,
said, dispatch services,
what's that?
Yeah,
and what was that going up to?
21,000.
$21,856, that's to date. That's the new, that we just, the capital area, we just
Okay,
did the budget last meeting. The I am responding, I don't see where that's gonna change at all. Jake's computer service that, you folks got for him last, a year ago at town meeting, I asked him the other day how that was going, and he's really liking it, it's working well.
that's the reporting service,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Equipment maintenance and repairs, that's $10,000. Still $4,100. I need to buy 6 tires, so that will wipe that out real quick.
So you think 10's enough for next year?
It's been working.
Okay, it's been working.
We've been sending the stuff over to Charlie Boys. Let's see,
Is that
100
one that we have a fund for if we go over it massively?
Maintenance, fire department maintenance.
I don't think you do. I don't think you have a.
No,
Yeah.
nothing. We had some, and then we borrowed that when we lost a pump a few years ago.
Yeah.
We had $18,000, we replaced the pump and engine 3, and then, they wanted to hold off, they didn't refund that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dry hydrants, $200.
What's happening with the one by my house, besides the bag on it?
It's dry.
It's dry. It's really dry. You have to fix that somehow, or
Yes,
is it
we
just
gotta
because the
dig-
water's so low?
No, I gotta dig it up, it's broke down in the elbow,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Is that gonna come out of some, where's that, equipment
I
maintenance?
we have, money,
Yeah, there's
fire
both,
hydrant money in
Oh, okay.
another,
there's both a budget line item for dry hydrant as well as a fund.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay, air pack maintenance, they're coming out in the next couple of weeks to service them. I have no idea what that's gonna be, but it should be good. Radios and pagers that should be good. Equipment, $2,500.
Currently, you have $94 left. Oh, sorry, 94% remaining. My bad.
Right, there's $2,361 left, correct? Balance remaining?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and then that will be going down, because I don't think the Perkins stuff has come out of that yet.
No,
Well, the Perkins was for
I think
the
there was a-
pumps.
No, no, we have pumps, we have a line in here for pump testing, but we
Right.
don't, when they come to change the oil in the pumps and tighten up the pack-ins and check everything out, that comes out of truck maintenance.
Okay, yeah, so then that would.
that was the
come out of
1,050 we just paid.
Yeah, that's gonna come out of that.
Yeah, so then you'll still have a little more than half
Yep.
of it.
And so that's equipment. Pump testing, that's gonna happen this Friday. Bunker gear. I have to buy Liz, a new member, a new set of gear, so that will, suck that up real quick. Office supplies, we still have good in that. I gotta order some stuff, from that. Community relations,
I imagine you'll be putting some forward for trunk or treat, but.
yeah, and we still, I thought, yeah. And then the gas and the diesel, I've talked to Dana about that, we haven't used a whole lot because the calls have been down. So,
I love that we haven't used them. I'm not comfortable removing any of that out of the
no,
budget.
I'm not gonna remove it because I don't know, I've talked to Dana and we went through the state stuff that they sent us, and the price is gonna vary load to load, starting in December.
You're right.
Is that how,
The market
how
rate.
we took it? So I have no idea what it's, or I don't even know what we're paying, it's cheap right now, or it has been, but,
Until October 10th, you were paying a set amount, and I can't remember the amount,
Yeah.
but it was that lower amount.
yeah.
So
Since
fill them all then.
it's gone.
Oh, well, I guess it's too late.
Now the
but-
market.
No, they're
Just
full.
like gas stations.
So, I guess I'm gonna try to hold that as well. Background checks, we haven't had to do many of them. Forestry wages and forestry equipment and supplies, so, we did a 50-50 grant with the state. They put it out every year, you don't get picked every year, but we'll be knowing in a couple of weeks if we did get picked for a grant thing, so, actually, that will probably suck up both them lines.
And then on the forestry wages, is that like for forest fires?
Yeah,
And does the state help us with reimbursing us for those costs? at all?
no, the
No.
state doesn't help them forestry wages there, so if another town comes in to help, sometimes they send you a bill.
Yeah.
So if we go out of town to fight a forest fire, and there's a form to fill out with all the equipment
Yeah.
and labor and, everything that you used. And if you wanted to, you could send that bill to that town,
Uh-huh.
but where they're just an hour here and an hour there, which
It's a lot of paperwork for that,
it's
yeah.
a lot, so
Yeah.
we just run that out of our regular budget to pay the firemen in town,
Okay.
but.
I didn't know if there was some sort of reimbursement through the
No,
state. That's too
no,
bad.
but if a helicopter, see, that's what's gonna, that's, if we had to call for a helicopter to come in to fight a forest
Yeah.
fire, and I mean, now you're talking thousands of dollars an hour, and then that turns into $100,000 quick, and you hope like heck that never happens, and that,
I'll talk to the board about buying a helicopter.
that would be, that fund there, then,
I know there's a fund for that, I'm trying to find it.
I believe there is.
Yeah, Forest Fire Expendable Trust Fund.
yeah, how much is in that?
Right now, it's got 15, well, the last time I saw it, and updated this, which I think was last year, so it's got somewhere between 15 and 16 grand in it.
Okay, one good brush fire,
Okay,
when you
yeah.
paid, that would suck that up. But is there any way, if we didn't use them forest wages, we could turn that over into that at the end of the year?
Into the capital reserve
Into-
fund? Or
into
the
that.
expendable trust fund?
Or,
It has to be voted. That would have to be voted.
That would be
Yeah.
a town vote thing.
so, all right, no, so we'll just leave that alone for now.
Let's see, so the wages and so forestry wages and equipment supplies there, the total is 2250, and the amount that has typically been going each year into the fund is 2,000. So maybe we should just suggest that we up the amount going into the fund, because everything's more expensive now.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you have to pay for all the towns and not even a helicopter, I mean, that's a half a day brush fire right there.
Right.
But it's
But that way it builds up over time, and hopefully we never need to use it, but
correct,
we wanna be able to if we need to.
right, because what was it last 2 years ago, as it started? They had the helicopter come in over there, I think it was an arson fire. Acres and acres, and, the governor had to declare a state of an emergency so they could get, because it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars just to the helicopter company, and there was no way that that little town could even come close to paying that. Wasn't it over that way?
I
Sam?
think so. It sounds
The name
right.
sounds familiar, yeah.
Maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago now, but, so, that's something to think about.
Think about.
Before I forget about
The medical training still has money in that because the last $1,500 that was paid out for an EMT class that a young man's taking, we paid that out of Cindel's, memorial fund.
Oh, that was nice.
Susan. So that was, paid out of that, so, and then the medical supplies is right there.
Yeah, they appear to be mostly used up. I remember you trying to stock up a bit at the end of last year. So is this actually lower than it needs to be, since you already had the major purchase prior to this year as well?
Now, a lot of the medical supply stuff can be replaced at the Concord Hospital. And then there's some stuff like the needles, when that machine, the drill with the needles and the drills were outdated. I mean, they were stupid money, like what, $500. Remember, we just, but Yeah, the medical supply stuff has gone out of sight.
So do we need to increase that?
You know, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't, let me, we're not edging in stone tonight, right?
We're trying to get a good
Close.
feel on everything
So if
and make
I-
it so that we can talk about them, but if you give us an update.
I'd like to talk to my captain that takes care of that, stocking of the medical
Okay,
stuff, if you don't mind.
I'm just gonna put a placeholder of 3,000 in there, just so we see the increase and remember to ask about it when we get there.
Yeah,
What does happen to the remaining budget?
it goes back into general fund, capital,
Yeah.
into the.
So let's say, let's see, what is our total?
Well,
budget?
what I-
Anyway, the total budget happens, whatever we don't use goes, and reverts to it's all the general fund as we're using it. The remaining of the general fund at the end of the year goes into the unsigned fund, or unassigned fund, I should say, which is where we take things out of for when we create the, what's the in case,
Well,
contingency
your
fund,
contingency,
stuff like
Holy
that.
crap fund?
It's also where, if we decide, that's also where we can offset taxes from. So often, what we do is say, this is how much we can see is going into the general fund, so we'll offset the taxes for this year by about that amount.
And if I have $3,000 or $4,000 left over at the end of the year, what I've been doing, is we'll buy some tools that we need. Right now, and we talked about this a year ago, and I haven't done that, our hose, every piece of hose we have still needs to be hose tested. So if it comes close that I have any money, cause it's not in the line here.
Yeah, you'll use it on that.
I'll use that to do that.
So you're feeling pretty good, you'll be able to spend the
And then put it in
Oh,
maintenance.
remaining
Yes,
balance
yeah,
before
and
the end of the
then-
year,
right.
without much trouble.
Right, yes, and then if not, we'll figure something out, encumber something to make something that we're gonna do next year to take the edge off.
Yeah,
No, that, I don't go crazy, it's just like the two highway budgets, cause you don't know what fall's gonna bring. If you spend that all in May and June and July, and you have a wicked October, November, and December,
every time you turn around, something's washed out,
it-
right?
you're in trouble, so that's why you
It's a
try to.
puzzle.
So Emmett, do I understand that there's only two changes that, for now, and that's the dispatch service, you're increasing that by $856.
Yeah, and then,
And then Dave mentioned bumping the medical supplies up another 500.
yeah,
And everything else, at the moment, you're suggesting remain the same.
I'm gonna, the taxpayers, you know, it's, you can ask and they'll give, but it has to be paid, it's, at the end of the day, it's all dollars and cents.
I think you do a good job with this, my only comment, and I certainly am mindful of what it costs taxpayers as well. And you and I have had this conversation, you have to be realistic.
Oh, you do,
You know,
you do. You have to take care of that and give your people what they need to be safe
Right.
in,
I think it's nice that you're only going to fires that were within 1 mile of the firehouse to save on gas, but, just
Sorry,
kidding.
too far.
So let me ask, the first two line items are, of course, the two stipends.
yep.
Has there been a change in number of either officers or members? Because you mentioned, for example, bringing on a new member. Did you
Well-
also lose a member, or are we increasing
Believe
membership?
we've lost any, but some people come, some people don't.
No. I
So
don't-
they get paid by, if they show up at a fire, the people
Yeah,
get
they
paid.
get, it's.
Or
worked on-
training, or whatever it is, so
Yeah.
if they don't, that's, so that
Right.
kinda
Yeah.
shuffles money
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
yeah.
'cause, yeah, there's some that get nothing, and then there's some that get,
A lot more, right,
yeah, the more you put into it, the more points you get.
yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
that's the way it should be, really.
yeah,
Have there been any changes in officers this year? I don't
no,
think so. Okay. All right. And how many officers do you have?
5,
Okay. Perfect.
yeah,
All right.
Jake, Ben, Emery,
You,
And that,
I wasn't counting myself, 6 including myself.
well, you have to count yourself, Emmett.
Well, he asked me how many officers I had,
Oh,
so
okay. You're right,
if I told him 6, I'd have been fibbing to it.
yeah, that's right.
All right.
the next item, Emmett and I talked about this other public safety, and I think that was more or less a placeholder for an unusual situation. And I don't know whether it was Emmett or Steve or the emergency management.
Yeah, no, it's
director.
nothing I recall.
Yeah,
So
so.
what's $100 gonna do for you?
Just a holding.
Not much, but if there was some sort of emergency, your account would be open, so you could hit that for $1 million,
Oh,
and the DRA would accept it.
oh.
If you have nothing in it, you
Oh,
can't,
then you
you
can't
can't
use
spend
it.
any
So
money in
it's-
it.
It's like.
I
in
gotcha.
our,
It's not, yeah, it's like putting $1 in there, we could put $1 in there.
Just looks better at 100.
But I wasn't sure who did, you know.
No, I'm not, I don't believe it's anything somebody talked me into.
I think it's been that way for years and years and years, yeah.
But it goes back, if we don't spend it, it goes back, so.
Right.
It's better to have a
But it's there and
placeholder.
it's open and then that's something bad
yeah.
happens.
All right. And so I guess that brings us to
Highways,
highways.
All right. Highways. The only thing that I see that we need to accomplish, add to this, is we need to add a fuel line in this budget.
a few, you had a few
Well,
lines.
right,
A
because
fuel
after,
line.
Oh, fuel line, if you-
diesel
oh,
fuel line, because after the 350, then the town gets charged for that, in that it's $5 and $6 a gallon, it adds up to a lot at the end of the day, so, I just to clean it up.
Does that currently come out of equipment?
I'm not sure,
We have interpreted that fuel for rental equipment, Wendy and I had an argument with this.
Well, there's
Oh,
fuel
that's-
for rental equipment, but there's also like normal,
Right,
Normal, that's the only fuel bill that we have.
yeah. But if a fuel surcharge for use of equipment would, to me, seem like it would just come out of the equipment line.
That's what
where
we're
we're
doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so you just
Yeah.
wanna.
So that's where it has been.
Okay,
That's
so
where
just
we-
leave that that way then?
I
If
think
you
that-
added a fuel line, what would you suggest be in there, Emma? Sorry, Dave, what,
Oh, I
mean, we don't.
I-
Yeah.
I'm not sure,
You put you left your crystal ball at home? Yeah.
I'm not sure, I mean, because you take it out of equipment, and that's less equipment that's gonna work, I mean, I'd have to go back, see when the fuel went up and see what they have been, because I'm not in charge of that department.
Yep. Well, we certainly could give you a figure of what,
Oh, I can do it right at home, but
Yeah.
I mean, you can keep taking it out of equipment.
I was trying to take it out of fuel for rental equipment, but
But,
lost that fight.
Well, can we change the line item to just say fuel? And then it's fuel for rental and for surcharge?
Well, I assume Emmett's equipment was rental, that's how I looked at it.
Oh, that's
yeah.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we do
that's
rent all of the I mean.
Yeah, by the
he's
hour.
We don't own it.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
That's just my thought.
No, and that's fine too.
That's simpler, that's
That-
simpler,
yeah.
yeah.
How,
I hope she's watching Wendy on it.
what would we need to, like, I know sometimes there's things that we can't or shouldn't change for account names, and other times it doesn't matter. What if anything is required for us to just change it to fuel?
I would rather put a new account for fuel and leave the other one for its historical value and let it die a slow death after a couple of years.
Okay.
Right, because a rental,
In the event you had to go back, it probably is not that important on this case, but sometimes.
and that might not be a bad thing either, because like, last week we rented the tractor from Chapel Tractors with a side thing, so that fuel,
But if there's just a fuel line.
Yeah, that's all you
We
need.
just always use the fuel
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. But we.
Yeah, because
that's how I
everything's rented
suggest we
anyways,
do
in
it.
a sense.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
renting, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so we would need to get a sense of how much we're using the fuel surcharge. Because we're in the weird situation where fuel is baked into the amount that we pay for rental, but only up to a certain amount.
Yeah.
And so we can't just say, well, this is the amount of fuel, and we're gonna guess at the pricing of fuel, and put it in the line item.
So we would be looking at the amount over and above Emmett's, is it 350 Emmett?
Yeah.
I think so.
351
Yeah.
or something
Yeah,
like that.
350.
But basically, we should look at whatever we paid throughout the time and use that for forecasting.
Okay, we can do that. Wendy can do
And when's the locked-in price end?
I don't know. No, you mean no, that's in the contract.
Okay. No, but you said that the state, along with us in the town, have a locked-in price.
Oh, I
that.
know.
We did until
We
October
did.
10th.
Okay,
Now-
so no, so they
And
didn't do
because,
anything about it?
because the price is so volatile, the state couldn't
They're
offer
gonna-
us
Really?
that. There's a
yeah,
letter.
It's gonna be on delivery.
Yeah.
What?
I lock in.
Yeah. It was a great deal when it was going on, but
That's weird.
now they
Who's paying
can't.
attention to that, I guess?
Which means they can't get a vendor to lock in a price.
I know,
for
and
them.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I just did. About a month ago. But maybe it's
It's
different, maybe
prob-
it's less amount.
I would say that if it were me, I would be guessing that it's because whoever it is can't pre-buy the amount that the state is using. Versus
Oh,
they
you
could
mean-
pre-buy the amount that you're gonna use if they're a giant
enough.
oil company. And can you
Yeah.
bought it, it's in the thing, they're gonna pay us for it,
Hmm.
we've already made our profit.
Right, that could be.
Okay.
You would just think everything accommodates to size,
So
really.
basically, other
Yeah.
than the fuel thing, everything else is about the same.
Yeah,
About the
I mean,
same?
it is, I did talk to Warren today from GMI, and he said, about the gravel. He said probably add 10% onto it next year. He said he didn't have the crystal ball, he really wished that he did. And when I talked to him about asphalt, he wanted to know how many ton we were gonna use and do all this and do all that. Well, that's kinda hard, because if you don't get your money in the spring, at town meeting, then you're not gonna do any tarring, so I don't know where we're gonna be with tar. That's pretty good, so.
Dave, the other thing, you and I had talked about the highway block grant being included in the budget,
Yep.
and, which we can do, there's no problem with doing that. The only thing I might suggest that it makes it very clear to the voters about the highway block grant, keeping track of it separately like we've been doing.
It does, but I think it also confuses the point that the block grant changes from year to year in amount, and our needs for the roads don't change based on what the state's gonna give us. And so I would much more rather that we set it all into a highways and streets budget so that it's there it's maintained, it's a similar presentation all the time. It's not, well, the budget's going down by, 3% because highway and block grants went down by 20%, but you don't actually get that savings because the state's not giving us the, like, it just confuses things. And based on what you were saying, as long as we're satisfying the amount out of the budget that we're spending towards roads.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Then it doesn't matter whether it's a line item for block grant or not. It's all kind of, that's just what we've decided that we normally spend our block grant money on. It's not a set
Right.
amount,
Right.
so. Trying to incorporate all of those line items just as part of the highways and streets budget instead of separating them out into a streets budget and a block grant budget. And while we're there, the other thing that we've been talking about with the office, myself, and some of the back end for how we're able to track all of the receipts and everything else, for example. It would be very nice to be able to say that the majority of the work that you do comes out of the budget instead of every single meeting, every single time we have to wait before we can ask for money from the trustees and so on. So incorporating a lot of the road preservation portion of stuff into the budget instead of as a separate trust fund. Not all of it, because we want extra to stay there and to be used and to be available in the future, but.
So one check instead of two checks,
Yes,
and one, yeah, that, yeah.
It would make it much easier for us,
Mhm.
just if we could pay the bills out of the general fund, and we'd probably establish an account for what is,
yeah,
I use the word suspense for lack of a better term, but at the end of the year, we would say to the trustees, these are the items we've spent it on, and we need you to transfer that to the town.
So I could,
yeah,
yeah, I could come in and say, hey, this bill's gonna be $103,000 coming up, and
You would continue to
Nice.
do what you do now, tell us which account it was coming out of, if it's road preservation or construction or, and we would just not be doing.
it'd be so much cleaner, wouldn't it?
It makes it
Basically, we would
very
have budget line
confusing if
items.
someone calls you up and they say, we got your check, but we have this question on it. So then I go into the general fund, I
Yeah.
have no check. And now I've learned, okay, now I gotta go somewhere else, but, plus the fact, I think it's a lot of work for the trustees.
Very much.
To do that, and they have to go to the bank and they have to take money out of investments and cover the check, and I just think we could fund that through the general fund and get paid back at the end of the year.
and so my personal thinking on this, and numbers are completely up for debate, but my personal thinking on this is that right now, the way that it has been, road preservation expendable trust, we normally put the 200,000 into. My suggestion is that we basically have a line item that's road preservation, it gets 100,000, and we put 100,000 into the expendable trust fund. So if you're using 100,000, great, it's in the budget. If we have some extra left over, we don't even need to tap, even if it goes over some, we don't need to tap the trust fund. It just stays there for when we need it. But if not, then great, we're still sitting.
The other
Very true.
advantage to this also, doing it that way, there are times right now we have to transfer the money into trust funds. And you and I had a conversation via email about this
Yep.
the other week, and of course, this time of year, we're waiting for taxes, but yet we have bills that we know we have to pay. This would solve a lot of that. Well, in the police department, they were gonna buy a cruiser, we had to cut a check from the town that goes to the trustees to pay for the cruiser, and then we had to add the trustees to write the check for the cruiser. I mean,
Yeah,
it's convoluted.
Well, and there's more ways for it to get lost. If you ask me, I think they're probably thinking they were protecting it in a sense, but it were really
And,
making it
I
so
mean,
so
this
we would
complex.
have
Yeah.
a, list of what, is to come out of what, and a
And so-
list of the invoices that go with it.
And so everything would be in one place in our general budget.
Yeah.
And if it's over enough that we need to request that we take some from the trust fund at the end of the year, we ask for one check for this stuff to go back and call it a day.
That's how I've done it in other towns I've worked for.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll never know why they did it the other way, but,
Well, I can see, if you had one or two checks once in a while, but you're gonna be approving like 6 transfers, a little later this meeting.
that's fine. So do we have to make a motion or anything?
And
I think things are more, there's so much more to do now than in the old days, you know, you could do a lot more without having all this paperwork and,
And I would suggest that the board, and I will, I can set this up, to meet with the trustees to, so that everyone's on the same page. You know,
But since I knew you would probably get towards, you know, what the amounts are based on the projects you were seeing and so on, I wanted to kind of jump ahead a little bit and kind of set that
Mary
hopeful
will come in and
expectation.
write the check, and then she'll say to me, well, please tell them not to wait until tomorrow, cause I have to drive over to Warner to, you know.
oh, yeah.
But see-
really.
And if we're doing it, we don't
Yeah.
have
It's
to,
probably just something
that's a
that
problem.
somebody overthought.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the highway stuff, where we have the road construction and, road preservation, I mean, that really helps get a lot of stuff done.
I think it's great.
And I don't
Yeah.
think,
The town was very foresighted with that, cause it saves a lot of,
but,
you're paying as you go rather than,
yeah.
yeah.
That's why I don't wanna remove it, but at
Yeah.
the same time, like, we're not always using all of it, and so, and we're also not always only using the amount we put in. So it makes sense to have the funds.
Oh, no,
But
I
at the same
think
time,
that,
putting generic budgeting in, kind of, oh, well, everything has gone up in price, rather than changing how much we're putting in the funds all the time, it's, well, let's change the budget amount. You know, and so everything is much more obvious and transparent to anybody, I think, by doing it that way.
We would still have to have in town meeting how much you're putting in each account.
Right.
And,
It's just not
Yeah.
moving money all over the countryside.
right,
Yeah.
You know
right.
where the money's coming from by in-house accounting.
Right.
Not because it was in Bank B to go over to Bank C
Yeah.
to go to Bank E.
Well,
It would
Skip
turn into
D,
this
you
famous
see that? Is
revenue
anybody paying
versus
attention?
expense, yeah.
well, and at the same time, if, when the average person comes in and looks at the budget, and they say, oh, well, we spent X amount in this line item, they get it.
Yeah.
Whereas if they go, well, the trust fund says it has this much money in it, they have no idea. They're
Right.
like, well, I didn't see Emmett on my road, he must not have done much, because there's a lot of money there.
Right.
I mean, hopefully, everybody here knows Emmett well enough to know that's not the case, but, you know, it makes it really easy for, oh yeah, there was a lot done,
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah, we got a lot done, I'm pleased, that Corn Hill Road, it turned out great, that intersection coming out of Centennial, it's,
Right.
we got them all shimmed, and the signs and the cones are all cleaned up. We got that nice water swale down Concord Drive, so that gentleman doesn't lose the bottom of his driveway, and, yeah, no, firehouse got done, I know that the town, the money, but we did the church for the church this summer, and that drive, that came out, I mean, that's great, and got a lot done.
So I guess my question would be, when we're, for example, saying, like, a line item for road preservation, would it actually be a new line item? Or would it be that, because most of the stuff that you're submitting is, you know, either gravel or paving, or, for example, rental equipment and labor and fuel and so on, would we distribute that into the rest of the line items? Like, does it warrant its own separate line item?
We have line items for transfers from, I don't know if I brought my budget with me, the entire budget, which is more or less, accounts that just transfer waiting to be reimbursed by trustees, which I would propose using, but of course I would talk to the accountants to make sure that's proper, and DRA, to make sure that's a proper way to do it. Which may negate us having to put an amount in there as far as a budget, because you don't know how much he's going to spend, unless you match it to how much you're putting in.
That's what I was
As a
figuring,
revenue.
we would put, well, I was figuring that the budget line item would be half and the trust fund portion would be half, and then we'd only ask for the trust fund if it were overspent.
But if
So-
the trustee, if the town votes $200,000 to do a project, put 100 in the trustees and 100 in that, it's gonna take $200,000 to do that,
So I'm
when-
talking about road preservation, not new construction.
Yeah, either or,
Oh,
it's the
okay.
same.
Well, I'm suggesting that there's a baseline for road, so,
If you raise,
so feel free to correct me here, but my interpretation is that road preservation is, you go out and you make sure that the roads aren't falling apart, and you do whatever you're supposed to do to them.
The road-
Not someone has voted, I want it in front of my house.
right, road preservation is to save a road
Mhm.
that's gonna take a few dollars now instead of a lot of money later.
So I don't, personally, I don't see that townspeople should be voting on that. I view it as you should be taking care of our roads and we should be giving you the money to do it.
Correct.
So, that's why I think it should be in the budget, and it should basically be this is what's in the budget, and if it needs to be higher or lower, that's generally what's there.
So the only thing,
And we add to a trust fund in case in a particular year, bad stuff happens and you need more.
My concern
Well,
is
if
you're gonna
they-
have it in your budget, so it's gonna increase your budget.
Mhm.
You're also going to have the amount you're getting in trust funds, cause now that's gonna add to it, so you've got that. And you're not really sure what he's gonna spend out of it, so it might be difficult to budget for that. If you did that, and you put an amount in, like a road preservation line, and you wanted to put in the revenue to offset it, so that people don't see a huge increase in the budget. Cause that's not wouldn't be true, that's.
and then another question that I have is.
I actually see it that it is the budget, because it's general all the time road preservation.
So, not using trust funds at all?
I'm not saying don't use it, I'm saying that like with other things like maintenance, we have a line item that we expect this is what's going to be needed and be used on a normal, annual, all the time basis in road preservation stuff. And then we also have the trust fund that is for, oh, I used more than that.
But my question is, you have your budget, and then you have your other money, your road preservation money, and if you plunk that into the general budget, and for some reason something goes sour, and, well, I ordered them pipes, but they didn't come in, or whatever, is at the end of the year, if you don't spend that money,
So anything like that would be encumbered anyway, so.
well,
But
I kinda like it, it was just like 2 years ago, that $200,000, that's why I did so much this year, is the town's folks voted for the money, the town fathers didn't let me spend it, so it was in the bank, but if you would've put that into here, roads and streets into here, then at the end of the year, that would've gone back into general fund, back into the town, and we wouldn't have had the money to work on the roads. Yeah,
So that's why I was suggesting that we do it about half and only for preservation.
I don't even know if I'd like to, I
So it'd
don't
be
even.
about 100 grand in the budget and 100 grand in the trust fund. Because I can't, knowing that you will use that much money, I can't personally see you not using at least 100 grand in a year.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do. Right, but you could have that board that says whatever. I guess what I'd like to see is put the money in the trustees' things and have them write you out a check.
The way it's been doing now.
No, not the way it's been doing, because they've been making the check out to our business. The money should go into the town, but do
Then
it,
we write out the check.
do it right, do it,
Yeah, so it's a single.
quarterly,
thing. Yeah,
do
it's
it quarterly.
Oh, that could work.
Do it quarterly, so they're making 4 checks out of that one account a year, instead of, I mean,
Yeah, all
they
the
must be
time.
doing 12
yeah.
a week,
Yeah.
or every 2 weeks. So, and then, if I knew I was coming into a project, I could just say to you folks, hey, I'm gonna get started on my project. This is what I need for money to get started. And then just have them write you out a check for 80 grand, 100 grand, 150, because if we do the oil sealing next year at 3 miles, that's 80 grand right there. So if I knew that was all gonna be set up and it was gonna happen in the month of August, would have that money already changed over. And then, there's a lot of things that I don't like about that one, but the way that was set up, so we don't lose the money at the end of the year, because encumbering is okay, but sometimes you don't want to hurry and spend that money just to spend it. You need to spend it where it needs to be spent, not just to, so it doesn't go back into the
General fund.
fund.
Right.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges and why I had thought that the half and half would make sense.
Yeah,
And the reason is because what I would really like it to be is you can't enforce doing. We could do it, but you can't enforce that future boards would do it. And that is, I would, for example, with the road preservation, I would like to take that 200,000, put the entire 200,000 in our operating budget, but say that anything remaining from this line item goes into the trust fund at the end of the year.
if you could set that up, that
But-
would be great.
And we could make that a policy or a managed course or whatever we decided that we would want to do. The next board might say, well, we're not going to present that to the people, or the people might say that's not the warrant article that we're going to say yes to because we'd rather have a tax offset. And so that's where, unfortunately, you can't make it that simple.
Right, and that.
I guess my comment on that, and you and I don't agree on this, but we'll talk later. But you can't just say at the end of the year, well, we have $156,000 left in this, we want that to go in trust funds. That has to be voted by the
Right.
people, so.
That's why I was saying
But-
we can't do that, so
Yeah,
it
oh,
doesn't
okay,
work.
all right, I just wanted to be sure.
So I think we
Did my
just
myself.
do it the way we've been doing it. And then, when a project comes in line,
I'm gonna see if there's a way to do it that works. And I'm not saying you're not right, I'm just saying that.
But it works now, is that what you're trying, it's working
Well,
now, so,
It's not
I
difficult.
agree that it would be a lot better
It's
not to.
difficult, but it works.
Yeah,
oh,
not to
okay.
have to withdraw piece by piece
Piece,
by piece.
yeah, a little
And
piece.
we don't have a
that's a
trail.
lot of extra
I mean,
effort.
we have a trail, but it's a different
And-
place.
And there's also the
State's got
second part of that where
Stuff gets,
we do
Yeah.
a lot with our funds. And so there's a huge portion of our budget that is funds and isn't actual budget. But if we're dealing with various types of emergencies or refunds or grants or whatever, or even our contingency fund, they're all based on operating budget only. So if there were an actual huge emergency, having the larger budget, even though there's no more dollar outlay than there is now, is actually helpful.
But if if that money is earmarked for road preservation or road construction, and you have a major flood, then you're not using that money. That's what the taxpayers gave you that money for, is to fix the roads.
Oh, I see, so it's
Not-
basic, you have to use it for that,
Well,
Whatever.
right or
So,
wrong?
so if it's in a trust fund, he's completely correct. If it's in a trust fund, we can't say, well, take that and use it for a flood. And I wasn't actually going down that road. I'm saying that, for example, because the operating budget would be larger, the contingency fund would be larger, and that doesn't touch those funds from you. It also means that with a larger operating budget, a lot of things, whether, that come from state and federal, can often end up being based as a percentage based on what you have and currently use as an operating budget. And so having the operating budget be more reflective of how much we actually spend every year is helpful in that regard. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay.
That you
no.
might be able to get more money
Right.
through the percentage.
From block grant or from
Yeah.
somebody?
Well, it wouldn't be from block grant, but it would be more along the lines of if there were an emergency or a disaster.
Right,
or a-
through FEMA.
whatever. Sometimes they're considering how much the budgets are and using percentages, so. Anyway,
Well, I just want it to work, I want it to be easy, I want it to be clean, I want it to be,
yep,
so if somebody wants to see what's going on, they can tuck, okay, I understand now, and
can you foresee any time where you wouldn't be using at least $100,000 in a year towards road preservation?
no, because $100,000, I mean, it was $103,000 just for the tar the other day.
Right, so that's why I was
10 grand.
suggesting that the
10 grand to
operating
have
budget
4 pine
could
trees
have.
taken down the other day.
That's why I was suggesting the operating budget could have $100,000 in it, and then the entire remaining, that, yeah, you're normally spending more than that, would be out of the trust fund.
And that might even work. That might
So that's where I was
Right,
going with,
well, that
trying to
would
make
even-
sure that this is a bare minimum, we're always going to overspend it, but that's what the trust fund portion is. But that way there's a line item that makes sense instead of, oh, there's $1 for road preservation, and we'll ask for it later.
do we get interest on the trust fund money? We do, don't we?
Trustees, yes.
The
Trustee,
trustees get interest on trust fund money. We usually don't fund the trust funds until like the last of the year unless we need it to pay somebody. So, yes, but not anything that's
right,
beneficial out of
not
what
for
we
the
would
whole
get.
year, it's not something that's gaining interest for
Yeah,
the whole year.
and we get interest from stuff that's sitting in our general fund anyway, right?
Yes, and it's huge amounts. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's
It's
like,
tiny for all of
you
them.
know,
but-
we might have a couple $1 million and we get like, $235.44.
But better than paying,
You know,
getting money is better than paying.
But either way, whether it's in our general fund or whether it's in a trust fund,
We still
either way,
get
it's
the-
gonna get that interest,
Okay, okay.
so.
All right.
So as
moving
long
on.
as, yeah, as long as we keep getting our, road preservation and road construction money, then this budget will be, we can make it all work. If we didn't get that, then this would be a different
For
story.
the road construction stuff, that's the one that I'm more familiar with, generally being a, hey, we wanna do this project and we need X amount, so, over the course of the next 2 years, and then on the third year, we'll do it, sort of thing that shows up through, usually through CIP recommendations for that sort of thing. Is that how you see it as well? Or do you see the road construction as something different.
Through the CIP, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, we have that CIP plan in there, but a plan is, as far as I'm concerned, is like a rainstorm. It comes down and it just goes every which way, and it never amounts to nothing at the end of the day anyways, but, I'll play the game. It's just like Cornhill wasn't in the plan this year or the next year or the year after, but you get walking it and watching it and looking at it and going down there and cold patching, and then the pipes were all bad, 25-year-old pipes. So I went down there to do that little project between Dingett's Corner and the intersection
Yeah.
down there, and you get looking around, and then we went down and ditched it because it really hadn't been ditched in years, and cleaned that all up, and you're just looking at that road, and you're going, yeah, 2 more years, you're gonna have to do a complete dig up, and we had no major rocks coming up through, because if you walk down the Todd Road, you can always tell where the rocks are. And we had just a couple of major rocks coming up through that Russell and Larry took out. We patched them back in, and it was just a perfect opportunity to, hey, we can save this 15 years. It's done, other than sand sealing it in a couple of years, no, chip sealing it, excuse me. But that wasn't in the CIP. We've done half a Little Hill. The first half is great. Addie did the second half 25 years ago. Town never had the money to overlay it, put the last traveling inch on. So that road's pretty much junk. Pipes are all gone. 25-year-old pipes, they're junk, they all need to be replaced. And the road's just crumbling. I don't even know in places this winter when we plow it, it's gonna plow the tire right off and ruin something. Yeah, Pleasant Street starting right at Long Street all the way down to back to the bridge, including detour, all but that one section that we did a few years ago down in front of the pump site. That's gonna just totally be rebuilt. There's no saving nothing there. I mean, the piece that Keith Barnard did, 22 years
I was gonna say,
ago.
that's a long time ago.
22 years ago from, Long Street to Allen Road. It's all ready to be done again, because the select board at the time, he had a road committee that he worked for, and they just told him, change the pipes and have it tarred. Well, we took a bunch of big rocks out of that last year in one section, and you just need to start over. Lake Road.
I was gonna say, aren't you
Yeah.
allowed to have it like that?
Lake Road down there, we gotta do something to that, or we're not gonna have, well, that's gotta be all dug up. In the first part of Lake Road that Addie did 25 years ago, that doesn't have a top coat on it either, and there's a lot of catch-up over the years. We've done a lot in the last few years, but there's still a lot to be done.
So it sounds like that the new construction portion is not what has been mentioned before, which is the town sets this aside for a specific new construction project. What it really needs to be is there's just that much that is in new construction all the time.
Right, last
For what
year,
you're working on.
last year it was $125,000 for new construction. Okay? So, that pretty much paid to have the pipes changed and it tarred, and ground and tarred and everything. And I went 1,611 feet, but luckily there wasn't, we didn't, $125,000 when you're doing new construction, and you gotta cut it back probably like 800 feet. And then by the time you get 800 feet, you're just getting started and it's just too, it's not,
So, should we be looking at this as there's a lot more than the amount that's going into the trust funds that we really need to be looking at? Or should we be looking at this, that the CIP committee is likely going to tell us that that number should be a lot higher?
well, no, you folks a few years
Easy to
ago,
look
the CIP or whoever, you took my.
I know they swapped it.
Yes, they
We
swapped it, but
back
why?
last
But
time.
why?
I think
Why?
CIP
Because-
mentioned because of the amounts
I wasn't there,
in the
so I don't know.
two.
Because if you have $125,000 to keep up with your roads, because $125,000 to, 1,500 feet isn't that long. And I was doing 165, 175,
Preservation, last year we put preservation back up. And where's the new construction? Highways and roads. So 2021 was when they had swapped it. And so highways and roads got the 200 instead of the 125.
highways and roads,
And
got
then-
200.
Yep, and then the road preservation got the it was listed as 100, but I think it
Well, that
was
isn't how,
actually
that isn't how it
125.
is.
I think it was actually 125. But the reason that they gave for doing that was because the balances for highways and roads were fairly low at the time. And the balances for road preservation were up around 400 grand already before they were putting more into it. And so that's why they had suggested swapping them for that year, knowing that there was likely going to be stuff, for example, with Pillsbury Lake, that was coming, and they wanted to have more in that fund at that time.
So
At least
road,
that's what I remember coming
road
from.
construction, you said was 200,000?
That was 2021.
Right, and then they changed it since then
That
because
was-
road.
yeah, highways and
preser-
roads.
got
That was 1 year that it was swapped in 2021. Before that, it had been the 125, and after that, it has been the 125.
Road construction.
It's listed as highways and roads and
Right,
capital
right,
reserve
yeah,
fund,
that's,
but yes.
that's highway.
The road
yeah.
preservation has been 200,000, except that 2021 year that it flipped with the other one.
The $125,000 on road construction, it just, you don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
What have you spent this year for construction?
Well, I did Corn Hill out of, road preservation, and road construction was Deer Meadow, and I must have sucked that up, because I had $45,000 left from a previous year.
Sure.
So I don't, oh wait, I might have it right here.
It was nicely covered Clothespin Bridge with tar, that looks good.
Oh, that's sweet, huh?
Yes, it is, thank you. And the other one too, in,
We don't
Horn
need to do
Hill.
the bridge anymore, it looks like.
Yeah, right, that's what I figured everybody's
job
gonna
replacing
say.
our bridge
They
head.
did. I don't think they're working too fast
No, I
on
don't
that
have them
bridge.
budgets from.
I don't see anybody over there.
They come in the middle of the night.
So-
people
Yeah,
are
probably.
sleeping.
But
And nobody's
didn't
even
have to do
talking
any-
about land.
that
or-
1,611 feet, I didn't have a lot of rocks pop, I didn't box that out.
Right.
We just ground it out, and, where we hit the big rocks, a couple of places, we popped them out, but, it's not boxed out, it's not a complete, like I usually do.
Well, so that your base
But
is
I
almost,
did-
your base is as important as the
Right,
top coat.
but
we
I
all know,
did,
but-
I had $125,000
Right.
to work with, and I gave you $125,000 worth of work in tar. And the tar down there, I can tell you what the tar cost on that job.
This price of tar must have gone up in the last year or so, I would say, probably big time.
Some, but they, treat us pretty good.
Well, that's good.
Let's go. Okay, that's Corn Hill, that was 96 bucks a ton laid in, Corn Hill. That was 800 ton. That was 800 ton at $93 a ton on that. And then the reclaim grinder. You adding that all up?
Oh, yeah, so we get 74,000.
74,000 in tar, and grinder was $8,400 to grind that.
Yeah. So 84, 5-ish to round up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
there's
then
no,
we changed the pipes, and,
Oh, there's no question that, you're doing it using money. But the amounts, like, so how have, and/or when does the CIP meet?
27th.
Okay, so end of the month.
right, and Bruce Davis came to town, and we went and looked at a bunch of our roads, but you can't, there's no sense in spending, it's 80 grand to do 3 miles, but if you don't have a good road to put your
Right.
your chip seal down, there's no sense in doing it. I mean, the White Plains Road, we shimmed that 4 years ago. That's ready to be sand sealed. Clothespin Bridge Road, from the intersection here down to the bridge, we shimmed that. The same time we did that, so that's ready to be done up. So there's about 3 miles of road to be sand sealed, and that's what they recommend to come to town to get that's what they need for work. So, I mean, there's 80 grand right there,
And that would be road preservation.
road preservation. But we still have close to 200,000 in road preservation that hasn't been funded, correct?
Yes.
Because the road preservation money that I used this year was the money that we didn't use, so that's why I knew,
It's still waiting to be funded.
right, that's why I knew that,
Can you pull the, I'm sure either of you could do it, but I'd rather ask over here. Can you pull the amount that was paid towards road preservation and road construction during the bad year where Emmett was told not to work?
In 2020?
Was that 2020 or was it 21? 2020, I think?
no, 21 we did, last year was
Yeah.
21,
Yeah,
this is
so it was
22.
Because when I first
So
came
it's
here in
20.
2020,
year-
Emmett wasn't doing, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't mean it the way it sounds, but he
The-
was not.
So 2020
No,
was
the year before that, I did do that little section down in front of S Steps.
Yeah,
That
Mhm.
was the only, that was just about that, and then, what was it, October, finally, I think you came to me and said,
we were.
let's
yeah.
go do something, but then it was,
Too late.
things were close, yeah, but,
So this is road construction you'd like us to look up?
Both road construction and road preservation. I'd
Okay.
like to see, in the year that basically Emmett was told he couldn't do much, which there were conflicts within the board about, but we won't go there.
Okay, so I'll go
I
with
want,
2020.
to see what that amount is, because if that amount is even remotely as high as I think it is, then let's just round up from that number and put that in the budget. And then the remaining would all be trust fund, and we would guarantee that it would Even if you were told, don't do work, or something horrible happened and he couldn't do work, or the company couldn't do work, then it still would not be a problem financially liability.
Because it would be in the trust fund.
Right, because the rest would all be in the trust.
Right,
And
because if it
everything else
goes,
would
if it
go
goes
back.
into our budget, and then at the end of the
Goes
year,
right,
I
goes
mean,
back.
it's just,
I certainly can do that, but here's what, the point I was making earlier, now, I'm gonna have to go month by month by month to look this up. Which
not going to
I don't mind
public.
doing it, but I'm just saying, that's why it's so much better to do it the other way, I'm just trying to say.
right, you can punch a button on the computer, and
Yeah.
how much you paid out to this account, and
Yeah,
tuck, tuck,
all
tuck,
right,
tuck, tuck.
I know I'm singing to the choir.
Which is why I'd rather have you do it than make Emmett go do it instead of taking care of roads.
Well, I couldn't do it, I couldn't do
You're
it.
just.
I could give you what I sent for bills, but I couldn't give you what I
Oh, which
bought
one
for
it
help,
went in.
for pipe, and
that's
for
true.
tar, and for gravel, because that doesn't go through me.
Yeah, because it would all
So,
be disjointed
to,
in one
to
place
do
or
it,
another.
to do it right, you have to go
Okay,
to
so it
the
does have to
source.
go this way.
Yes. I could tell you how much I charged you for the year, but
Okay.
the rest of the,
I think we've beaten this horse
Yeah.
enough for now.
Yes, me too.
Can at least once.
Well, we have another couple of budgets to
More
look for.
budgets.
These are easy ones, I hope.
Can Emmett go home?
Yes, I think you can go home.
Probably would like to go home.
I fell asleep before the meeting, and good thing my, my clock inside somewhere kicked me and said, hey, you gotta get going, you're gonna be in trouble. Got the wood stove going, it felt kinda nice.
Oh, yeah, right, that's a way to put you to sleep.
Would you be so kind as to pass those down?
Yes,
Thanks,
yes.
Oh, no,
Certainly
thank you,
will.
guys.
What was that?
Oh, Marlo said thank you, and I said thank you
Oh,
guys.
Thank you, go home.
I'm not
Put
sure
your
you
feet
ready to
up.
thank us?
Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
All right.
All good,
Yeah.
I guess.
This is, Brenda was going to come in, but she had, a conflict, so she could not come. So I just wanted, she told me what she wanted to suggest to you, so you're stuck with me. Cemetery, she is not suggesting any change from last year. Parks and Rec, she is going up $200 on the wages, going down $2,000 on park maintenance, and that's because the project she had last year, the flagpole and the backstop are now complete. Going up $100 on supplies, and she didn't know what to do with electricity, and I put it at $350 rather than $275, knowing that
Yeah.
the price of electricity is going up. So that changes the budget to $1,600 less than
That's good.
22.
Probably the only one that'll be less.
Oh, is that it?
That's it.
Oh,
Is that the last
Wasn't that a lot more easy?
Yes.
yeah.
So
mean,
which
ultimately,
electric
he's
lines
not-
actually come out of that?
That is the spotlight on the veterans flag.
Which basically never changes, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe that's too high, you know, if you think it is, you know.
We'll have to look at their billing, and I think they do it weird and it's not actually kilowatt hours. But
They do everything weird.
yes, Unitil's billing is
This is Unitil.
priceless.
It's still Unitil.
I would much rather deal with Eversource.
Really?
So that was it. I was going to bring you the insurances this time, but of course they're not ready yet with those figures. And, so that's all we have for tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we also have to make a motion for making a signatory on that loan.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
coming,
well,
that's coming
That's it
along.
for budgeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's.
So do we have to do
coming.
anything to accept?
Would I forget
what
about you, Russ?
the cemetery
I know,
would?
I would never.
Yeah,
This is what happens when Chief
It's just
Adams tells
accepted,
me to
it's in
sign
there,
something.
once we get everybody's, then we'll work session. will
Don't you know, Russ, there's a very
deliberate
fine
That's
line
where
between the
kinda did
cops
the-
and the crooks.
He's not
Now,
saying
now,
that.
now. But he's a
No.
good cook.
We're just
so you
trying to
don't-
decide.
Oh, I know, I'm not picking on him, I'm just picking on you.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
But he's a great police chief too.
Yes, he
Especially
is.
somebody
We're gonna
Yeah.
hire
trying to
Joe.
catch on.
Great police chief.
I think
Stay
there probably
here
should
while-
be more money.
We have a good
in it.
police department.
We've had some, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we've had
We'll-
some real, in
We'll see what comes
winters.
back, the CIP gives us something
And I don't mean the
concrete.
police, I mean some of the selectmen,
Whoever volunteers
some
to
of
be
these
on it.
people in this town.
It
So
comes
right
out of the
now-
planning board.
I can tell you who's gonna be on it.
Well, I think that, then that's what I wondered. We
It's gonna be Craig, Paul,
Addie.
Addie, and maybe Rob Walensky.
Okay.
That's.
Rob who?
Rob Walensky
Oh,
expressed
oh,
interest.
The only thing, that's a
And then
good,
Dana and me.
that's a good mix of just educated,
Right. I think having Addie on it will really help.
right.
And then Emmett, I think hopefully will make it, cause it's hard to explain his
Will
projects
will
without him.
will he be a part of that committee? He should be in a sense. shouldn't
Well,
he?
we always I would like it if he comes in, cause it's easier for him to explain what he
Well,
needs
which
to
ones he
the board.
wants to do and
He
what
would
he's.
present his.
Yes,
Yeah, and I think by Addie being there, he can support and
Right.
explain what. you
Costs
know,
are.
What, you know,
Well, I just
what
wanna-
people should think about.
Make sure we get the projects in the book for those chances that you can get grant opportunities, and it's not in the CIP.
and if you
You
don't,
don't
oh, if you
qualify
don't
for
have,
it.
oh, interesting,
Yeah,
you
if
have
okay,
it's
to have
not
a
ready, if
CIP
it's not
plan.
planned, you don't get it.
right.
You don't
Although
get
I've worked for towns that have CIP plans that never funded them, so what good was it, but,
Right,
you know.
but this town really does fund.
This, I think this town's great the way they do it. No, about that raise, no.
Didn't we do that? Or is that coming?
Actually, it's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, cause
Not
we said
giving so
all
much
of,
to
we
do.
said all of them are supposed to be at the end of the year, so.
Yeah.
That's right.
That way they could all be effective January first
Yep, that's right.
for the new budget.
Right.
And it's all in the budget, instead of we think maybe. All right.
Would you like to do correspondence?
Yeah,
Yes.
let's
Yes,
do
please.
correspondence.
Oh, good idea.
Okay, well, in your packet, you'll see a nice note from the Mara Fund thanking us for the donation,
Yeah.
which was nice. The next item is, Chief Adams met with Russ last week and very anxious for the grant application to be signed. And so Russ's assistant town administrator and I was not here, and so Russ signed for it. But now they're asking for documents such as minutes authorizing Russ to sign. So I was going to ask if you could make a motion, authorize Russ to sign that grant, since it doesn't make sense to have it come back and re-signed.
Right.
And then they need a certificate of insurance, which I can deal with that.
I would move that we follow their recommendation in allowing Russ to, our assistant town administrator to be able to sign these grant applications.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is, I got this in email from Computech. We had asked them for figures on a new server. This would be, would this be CIP?
I think possibly.
25,450 for a new server. And I just got that today, so I would need Dave to kind of look at it for me.
Well, I think we would have had to have saved that before this year, if we were gonna do it in the CIP.
Well, if we're gonna do it, depends on when we're gonna do it,
Right.
yeah. And
I thought we
that
had to
is,
replace it this year, or next year.
it's not gonna be this year, I don't believe.
No, I think last time we talked about it, I think that when Dave was there, we talked about doing it next year.
It's plenty.
Yeah,
Yeah, it highly depends on basis, so to catch everybody up on our server, we have an old server in town hall. It basically works as a storage server, and then it also has things like AccuFund, and a couple other items on it.
Avatar.
That run off of it. It's going to be also housing our digital documents and the document programs to handle doing that, such as we've approved already. That program required more memory, and so that memory upgrade is going into the server. And basically at this point, the server is going to be out of warranty. It is approximately a 5-year-old system, which in computer terms is fairly long, but there's nothing wrong with it. We're not using it heavily, and it remains to be seen what happens when we start using all of the document stuff. If that kind of pushes it and everything becomes slow, or there are issues with it because of that, or unsupported features, then we should move towards doing something like this really quickly, perhaps next year. If, however, that's working fine, we should have this money getting
Set
set
aside.
aside so that when something happens, we can move on it quickly, as opposed to, well, sorry, we're just not gonna be able to access our documents until next year.
Right, because it wasn't in the budget. Okay, fair enough.
So that's where this comes, and why I think it probably makes the most sense to be CIP based.
Right, well, that's why I
as
was
a-
wondering if we were replacing it this time,
This
and
should
then
be
start
better.
saving for the next server, which maybe is 10 years down the line.
And that's just a budget, because you'd get
Well-
more quotes.
Yeah, you can
Right.
get different quotes. And, the interesting part there is of course I just finished closing it. We do actually have funds for these items already. And
In technology.
Right.
let me go back
I think I talked to
to,
Dave about this.
so warrant articles, the technology fund, because they expected to have to do the server in town hall as well as the police server, those were spec'd at being about $15,000 each. And so they had put the 15,000 in the line item and the 15,000 in the technology budget fund. We didn't actually replace the one in town hall. So the last note that I have says there was about 15 grand sitting in the technology fund, as it's been both used and funded for the past several years. So if that continues to be the case, then just putting a bit more into it is probably fine, but that's where CIP will be able to look at what's the balance, how likely are we to need it, how soon, let's make sure that we've got the appropriate money in it and go from there.
Dave, Marlo mentioned about getting another quote, and I know this is kind of a sensitive thing with being Computech does all our work. What do you think about that? I mean, is that,
It's over 10 grand, so we need to either put it out to bid
Well, that's
or
what I was
ask for
thinking.
at least 3 quotes.
you know,
We don't necessarily have to choose the cheapest one.
Well, like, you say that they're not far, and it's not, you know, and by the time you get done.
you know if they're in line?
Yeah,
Right.
but that's a lot of money not to.
Well,
to-
over 10 was supposed to anyway.
Well,
but
right,
yeah.
but still,
And
I was just trying to figure out how it would work if we chose someone else.
so if we chose somebody else, it would be kind of like where we got the computer, but in a more complicated version of it. So if we add a computer, say for example with the fire department, someone gets a computer, we can ask them for one and a quote and they can deliver it, and great. Or we can buy one and say, hey, start supporting this computer, and they will. Either way is fine.
and not saying that they
Something-
won't be right in line either.
A server is going to be more involved, has more stuff going on with it. And as you can see on this, if you're looking at it, a lot of
We
that
can't
is
sign that letter.
estimated labor.
You see the error?
So there are questions there, but some of the labor would probably stay with Computech, even if we've got another outside
I'm gonna
place.
go fix that real quick.
Really, what you would wanna do is look at the first 3 line items, and that's what you would want to competitive quote on. And knowing that some of the labor would probably go to, like if it's an integrator, maybe it was our previous, let's say our previous IT company gave us a slightly better price. They might have a different set of labor charge, but say, hey, we're gonna do it in this amount of time, we'll deliver it ready to go. Whereas Computech might say, they're gonna come out here and set it up once they're here. So there are differences that we would have to look at that point, but really what you have to look at for the specific quote portion is gonna be the hardware licenses, et cetera.
So, but what
Because
if?
labor's gonna happen even if it's another company that provides the
Well,
server.
no, I understand that, but I'm not knowing very much about resetting up the server, and probably because they have to connect it to everybody's computer and stuff. But my
Yeah.
point to that is, I agree with you, but there again, all depends on if somebody thinks they won't, but they're probably right in line anyways, but somebody could say, oh, it's only gonna take 50 hours and not 75 hours, but.
Yeah, so one of the things that is common to see done in IT world, having come from it, is, for example, if, let's say I'm doing a server migration, so from one server to a newer server.
Right.
There is 20, 30, 40, 50 hours worth of time where stuff has to happen to go from this computer to this computer before the new one is ready to go. Of that time, I have to be hands-on for a few hours at the start, a couple hours in the middle, a few hours later on, and a few hours towards the end. The rest of that middle is stuff that I've told to happen, waiting for it to happen. If you're in a situation where, for example, you're driving to a client and it's every couple hours, you just stay there and you charge them for everything, even though you're not doing anything for them, but watching it all. If
Yeah.
you're able to do it remotely, and some of that you can, then you're only charging them for the time that you're actually working on stuff.
I could give them to my
If you're doing it
computer.
in your own office,
Right.
you're only charging them for the time that you're working
No,
on
no,
stuff.
makes sense.
So
Oh.
it can vary in that aspect.
Why don't we just fix it after? We'll just bring it up and then we'll sign a different letter.
But yes, this gives us something good to
just
put
ignore
into
this one for
CIP.
We can
And
bring it up and I'll go make
if
another
it's
one.
next year, it'll be a completely different
After we're-
different hardware. anyway.
Once we
But
get
it
the
gives us an
motions, I'll make
appropriate
another one printed.
amount to consider budgeting for.
Okay.
So your next item is a letter from, on planning board stationery to Mr. DeBello. Russ can explain this to you. He's gotta print another letter because it has the wrong date at top. And this is, why don't you explain it, Russ?
So, as you're aware, Mr. DeBello got a response from New Hampshire DOT that states that his driveway permit's denied. So the planning board had a meeting with the attorney, and this is one of the subjects that came up. And the attorney suggested that the town do not issue any other permits until he gets a state permit. So we're just gonna inform Mr. DeBello in a letter signed by both the select board and the planning board that no further permits will be issued until you get your state permit. That's basically,
Now, where's he building? Is that on Battle Street, the place
Right
that's
near
all the
Cloverdale?
dirt? Pardon?
up above on the hill over.
Yeah, yeah,
Cloverdale.
yeah, on the right-hand side,
Left-hand side.
or left end,
If
yeah.
you're coming from here.
Hmm.
And the site distance, they don't, I think is a problem.
One of the issues was the site distance.
Which,
It's got that hill, I suppose.
yeah, didn't surprise me,
Right.
but there again, you could do that you could go down to New Hampshire Road and probably pick apart a lot of site.
Right. But once again, this is something that's
Yeah.
outside of the town's hands.
Right.
Yeah, right,
And that
main
we-
drag and,
You should go to my son's house, you have to pray a little bit as you turn onto his street, because there's a
But I'm gonna
corner
go
right there.
fix that and I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries.
The next item is our permit, which was approved today. I was so excited and I signed it.
This is awesome.
And I sent it over to Chad and said, okay, Chad, sign the other part and we'll turn it, because the permit's approved, but we have to have it signed to go forward, and we have to let them know. So a few things we have to do. First of all, that principal contractor is not Chad. That is gonna be who is doing the actual
Actual installation.
construction.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know we talked a little bit about Emmett doing it, but we're going to have to, have a meeting and decide who is gonna do it, or if we need to have Chad prepare a bid spec for us, so that we can, get this, obviously this won't happen till next year.
I was gonna say.
But if we need to do that. Also, Chad's contract was to get what we have in our hand done, so he's done his contract, but, we could add that he could oversee the project, which we need someone to do that. My own personal opinion, I'd rather not change horses.
Yeah.
I think it would just make it go a lot smoother, but this is really, ever since I've come here, I've heard about White Plains Road, and I almost was very emotional about it, I didn't know if I could come tonight because I was so emotional.
So can we get quotes for that oversee as well as for the culvert that's been engineered to go into here?
I asked him for that today,
Perfect.
yeah.
That is awesome. We can
And I also
actually
said,
move
can you
forward.
bring it by next week, but. The next item is a letter, you had gotten a letter previously regarding, an action by New Hampshire DES, and you see that it's been, resolved.
Is there any further correspondence provided to you?
No.
Okay. I will mention a piece of correspondence that was not written, that I have received, and was interesting. It came from the Attorney General of New Hampshire.
I was going to mention that in a reputation meeting.
Okay.
I mean, I think I know what you're, yeah.
And the short version is that it, because I'm not gonna, I don't think we need to go into non-public for this, but the short version is that basically we've been made aware that previous employees here are being looked at for how notarizations were done. But none of them are here, so we basically
Because
said,
what can we do?
we don't have anything to do with it anymore, and thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, I spoke with him today, and he wanted to know when I started.
Really?
And I said, phew, got me out of it.
So I will leave it there.
Okay, good, that's.
But that was communication or correspondence that I thought was worth mentioning.
Yeah, I think
So.
the board should know.
Thank God none of us were here.
All right,
So I don't have any more correspondence.
all right. So that moves us to public comment, of which they've all left us by now. So, motions and approvals unless anyone else has other items that they would like to discuss.
No? Good deal?
All right.
Oh, are we gonna do a non-public?
If you think we need one for something.
Well, we can wait for this. We're about the town report.
Oh,
And it's basically a dedication, which is usually private,
oh, gotcha.
so we can wait, though.
Okay.
Okay. We've been doing.
Oh, basically you were gonna suggest somebody?
Yeah,
We should actually put out something for if anyone has suggestions, unless we,
Yeah, I
Can
think
you do it
that's-
via the
Normally we do
website?
that.
I
sort
think
of
that's a
thing.
good idea.
In the past
We
we've
also
done that.
haven't notified the school of our idea from last time, so I was gonna call them this week.
because then we can see anything that people say along with
Yeah.
yours, and it's just a document in front of us, and then we don't even have to go in a non-public for it, because we're not
oh,
stating
okay,
anything
okay.
about it.
All right, okay. Well, I do have a document that somebody gave me,
Oh, there you go.
yeah, and I didn't bring
Here's,
it.
oh, here's the one to sign, perfect.
I
For
didn't-
motions and approvals.
Do we all sign this?
If you want to. I can't make you do anything.
I should
Oh
take
my
this pen out of
God,
there.
I'll sign in the middle.
Well, I gave you guys your select board section and the planning board section. I'll let Marlo choose which one she wants to sign in.
I only have to do one.
Yeah,
It's just double sections, got it.
I let you guys sign the top.
Oh, great, okay.
I usually give them lines.
well, there's not enough room for me to put nice lines in there. Also, certain board members like to sign bigger than other board members.
Yeah, see, I don't need much space.
I need all the space.
So, do you wanna get that to the planning board?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that
Do
up
it?
the next meeting.
All right.
That way we don't have to,
You know, I love how you just ditched that right
Isn't that
now.
great?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Do you wanna do minutes next, or is there something else you wanna jump to?
No, I think minutes is a
What
wonderful
about
idea.
the check warrant? Oh, you.
Oh, that's coming up.
That's normally signing of documents stuff.
Okay.
Though we just did some of that.
Yeah.
I thought I saw a second one show
no,
up in
there's only
front of
one,
me.
well, I only saw
Yeah, there was one in the packet, and for some reason when I was flipping, I thought I saw a second.
There
I
was
guess
one that, I noticed when Russ gave it to you, he had the back of another set of minutes on there,
Did I?
yeah. But I've taken that out,
Okay.
to make it more confusing, maybe?
Of course.
Make sure this is still, yes. So I do have a couple things for this one. Page one, line 43. It was Chairperson Hemingway wasn't sure if Garris Road is a scenic road. And I wasn't sure if all of Garris Road was marked as a scenic
Oh,
road.
none of it's scenic road.
None of it is.
None of it's scenic
Oh,
road.
even better. So, there we, well, I guess it doesn't matter then.
You asked me to investigate it, but Russ did it.
Yeah, I did it, because he was on
Perfect.
vacation.
It worked for
Okay.
me.
So we're not doing that change then, or are we still doing that change?
I guess it doesn't matter at that point. The second one was page 2, line 30. And it was for the dry hydrants. And I was asking if they were able to repair the non-plural hydrant, because that's the one up by Dee's place that I knew they needed to work on.
Wait a minute, where are you?
Instead
Where
of
are you? Where are you?
clean,
What
Second
page are you?
page, line
Second
30.
page, line 30.
Line 30.
So you wanna change it to
Oh,
repair,
okay.
not clean?
I wanna change it to repair and hydrant, not hydrants.
Oh, there might have been more than one in town that he had to do.
No, D only broke one.
Fair.
I thought there might be more than one, so
Could be.
It could
Okay.
happen to anyone. Yeah.
But anyway, repair.
repair instead of clean.
And then, lines 33 and 34, tongue is not spelled correctly.
Well, I'll blame the editor on this one. Cause no, it wasn't Dana this time, it was Wendy, and Wendy was gonna be very upset.
It sounds like a Chinese tongue.
So that was all I had for it.
It's nice to know that she misses things sometimes.
Wonderful, we're intelligent.
Oh, yeah, she Cause I know I make that mistake. I'm getting better with precedent and precedent.
You're good.
It takes a little bit of doing.
No, I think my editing's come a long way from when I first started,
I
so.
think it has.
Does anybody else have anything from the minutes?
You look too good.
She's still looking.
No, don't worry
Well,
about
she just
it.
wants to pin me down and get me on something.
I think we should accept these.
D never misses
Do
him.
you wanna make the motion?
I will make a motion that we accept the minutes of October 3rd, 2022,
As an
As
edit.
amended.
as amended. Oh, yes, of course. Sorry.
Second. All in favor?
I don't
Aye.
say anything because I wasn't here, right?
You can either abstain or
It's better if you
because it
don't.
looks okay, or
Aye,
you
yeah.
watch.
I mean, I did read it.
It's up to you.
Right, you know. You can pretend you're interested, though.
Well, that day I got caught myself up. I actually was reading it out loud to myself.
All right.
It's actually not that eventful of a meeting.
No,
That's
No.
it was pretty good. All right, so motions for payments.
Yes, and first, I'd like to give that to you.
Oh, yes.
Happy
I
birthday.
had intended to come back sooner.
Yeah, it's good that it's gone on our way to hear about it again.
So I have the accounts payable manifest and the payroll manifest that need to be signed. And I'll give you these copies to sign.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do signing first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got out of order.
It's fine, it's all getting done.
We're all out
I'm
of
getting
order.
so,
You're out of order.
He goes on vacation for a week and he forgets how to do his job. That's just how it is.
Oh, it's
Yeah, where'd you
wonderful
go for
forgetting.
vacation? Go somewhere good?
Arizona. Went to the
Oh.
Grand Canyon.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I tried to have an opportunity to, but.
Was there still any water in it?
Yeah,
Water
I
not
was
film, you know.
Was there water in it?
And we went to the Hoover Dam, and the water, it's like a bathtub with rings, you know? I mean, it's
Oh my
water, but
God.
it's really low.
I know, I remember seeing the Hoover Dam
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, and it was quite impressive.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah,
I
except we had a lot of water in
Oh,
there
I
then,
did too.
so.
I did.
And the road that goes way high,
Yeah,
I don't like
there's
high
no major
roads.
I don't
sized
either.
ones in
Yeah,
here.
well, I
Yeah.
didn't like that, but my boyfriend thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, I don't like it either, and because I shout out, Maureen hates it too, and I go, oh my gosh, I'm losing control. The next item is for Michelle, it's to do with the election.
No. We just have to sign it?
Yeah.
Okay, just sign it.
I was stating that we're gonna provide the place or something.
Something
I
like
don't
that,
know.
yeah.
Anyway, I know. Do we have to stay, all three of us have to be there all day? I'm gonna look for somebody. My buddy Roy Fangio, I think, is going to Florida before this. so-
Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
I know, cause I always sucker him into going.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, this is just declaring that the time and place is
Right.
here.
Right.
That's all.
Well, they didn't ask me to make anything this time. Maybe next time.
What was that?
Maybe I'll make something on November. Maybe.
You're spoiling it.
Well, I think are we gonna put something in the budget for it this year to give pizza
Yes,
to the
we
election
should.
officials? 'Cause
Yes, we
they're
should.
there all
Feed 'em.
day.
The next item I have is a purchase order for the fire department. Only he's already bought it.
Oh, well, that's good. Hey, Bosquen feeds all their election officials.
And volunteers.
Well, then we must live in the wrong town.
We have to beat them. I mean,
Well, we
come on,
get-
and we have
all-
good food.
All of ours get fed good stuff too, it just normally comes from Paul. So thank you, Paul.
Yeah, exactly, that's true. But we have a professional chef here, so we might as well go big time.
I know. You should make them something nice.
I don't think she's quite sure of what she's asking for.
No, I'm not, I just want some good food. Don't you? If we have to be here, we might as well suffer in,
When you say
Good
big
food.
time to
well, I
a
mean,
chef.
come on. Well, let's have a filet mignon.
Right.
Awful mignon,
So-
that'd be great.
That leaves motions, and I have some motions for trustees. We just talked about this earlier, I have 6 of them. We provided the bills with your packet, or if you'd like to look at the originals, I have those too.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could just sign the motions?
It'd be great if I didn't have to do
Yeah,
There.
because at this point, you need to know most of it.
It's a little longer than usual.
Hey, I trust you, that's why you get the big bucks.
Should
So
never
we
trust
just
me.
have to sign, no, we get to sign, that's all.
And that's why I have them make sure the numbers and stuff are correct for me while I read it. All right, I would move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check for $2,443.55 payable to Bergeron Protective Clothing for invoice 231083. This invoice is for firefighter clothing to be withdrawn from the fire department bunker gear capital reserve fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check for invoice 1967 payable to Chuck Rose, Inc. in the amount of $3,000 for tree removal on Cornhill Road to be withdrawn from the Road Preservation Expendable Trust Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. You did a good job too, I have to say. That's by that house, I think, that, yeah. I
I
know.
would move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check payable to Fleece and Flower Farm for a total amount of $6,475 for invoices 6914 and 6916. That totaling $2,597.50.
Second.
Hang on a second.
Oh.
He
Uh-oh.
did this weird thing of like two at once again.
Who did
Did you
that?
say 6914 and 6916?
Yes.
And you said 2000?
Okay. I am going to rephrase that. I move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check payable to Fleece and Flower Farm for $2,597.50 to be withdrawn from the Road Preservation Expendable Trust Fund for paving on Cornhill Road and Dump Road, covering invoices 6914 and 6916.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd also move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check payable to Fleece and Flower Farm, the amount of $3,877.50 for invoice 6923 to come from the Highway and Roads Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that means she'll write two checks.
Yes, but because they have to come from two different funds.
Right. That's what I was trying to,
Figure out.
That's why I separated it back out.
that's fine, yeah, thanks.
I would move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check payable to GMI Asphalt for a total amount of $105,452.08. This for invoice 221433, P11136, P11142. These invoices for paving Clothespin Bridge Load, delivery of aggregate, and the other paving around the corner. These to be withdrawn from the Road Preservation Expendable Trust Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
My only question is, I wonder why they didn't do this, show how
What?
many tons they used. But maybe you got a quote of,
Does it
sometimes
have it
going
on-
through this exercise is,
Does it have it
How-
on,
what-
does it have it
what's-
on the invoice?
What's really good, I mean, Emmett has approved that, so. I
Right,
just,
so
you
it
know,
just-
It is
All
kind
right.
of odd,
And to carry on, I would move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check payable to Old Yankee Tree Service LLC in the amount of $10,300 for invoice 2438 for tree removal on Dump Road. This to be withdrawn from the Road Preservation Expendable Trust Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to request the trustees of trust funds issue a check payable to VHB in the amount of $3,192.66 for invoice 0387746 for engineering work on Clothespin Bridge. These to be withdrawn from the Bridge Improvement Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that actually the technical name of it, or is it, can we just say Bridge and Culverts Fund?
yeah, that's what is listed on her reconciliation, so that's what I call it.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause it might mean.
we should make all those things match.
Now, we're really getting fancy here.
All right, so that takes care of these. Do we have anything else at the end of this? PHP.
oh, that was it.
Yeah, that's all that we have in the packet. So, that appears to do it.
May I have a non-public under reputation?
Yes.
RSA 91:3(2)(c).
All
Or
right,
not to be.
I would move that we enter into non-public session under reputation at 9:18. And do I have a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
And for the purposes of everybody that will see this on the stream and YouTube, we will immediately adjourn once coming out of the non-public session, so there will be no resume of the stream or a second feed.
Eric, turn off camera.